Howdy ho, Lions fans. Welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast. This is episode 339. This is the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit. I am your dashing host, Chris. And with me are three other dashing reindeer. I don't know, dashing. It's the only thing we'll go through them here real quick. Everyone knows my oft-times co-host, Jeff the Risdon. How you doing, brother? Feeling good today?
Great to be with everyone. All good.
Always good to have you here. And the inimitable Erik Schlitt from Pride of Detroit nowadays. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's been a while since we've talked. I think the last time we did it was when you were doing that awesome stuff for St. Jude.
Yeah, that was a good time. That was a while ago, though. Well, we'll get plenty of time in today. Of course, everybody's friend from Woodward Sports, Scott, the man, Bischoff. How you doing, brother? Glad to have you back again.
Everybody's friend. How's everybody doing? We all good?
We're all ready for this draft to get here and then get over.
Please and thank you.
I will safely speak for everybody on that one. We're ready for the draft to be here.
Yeah,
10 more days.
There's a lot of crazy going on with this draft. All right, we got a big show today. This is our annual NFL draft extravaganza. It's a hard word to say, draft extravaganza. It's a 21 version. We're going to go through the first round mock draft. It's a consensus draft, so we'll take a quick look at the rules. Again, a consensus draft. Each move is going to be supported by the majority. Trades will be allowed throughout the process here, and I will take the role of tiebreaker. So the big brains on the podcast, and Jeff and Erik and Scott are going to be breaking through and talking through some of the things. I'll question their motives and their thoughts along the way, and then if they can't seem to come to an agreement, I will break that tie. So I think we're ready to go, gentlemen. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. And God, what in the hell's going on?
Let's kick this off and break it down.
Oh, man. We're starting off on the left foot. That's good. We got this. All right, let's get right into this. We'll start off first round, first pick overall. Our good friends over at Jacksonville. Everybody, I think, is in agreement that this is going to be Patrick Surtain. Can we just move on from there? All right.
So before we do this, we need to establish the ground rules of the mock draft, because you can do them two different ways. You can do what you would do, or you can do what you think the teams will do. What? I know Scott likes to do what he thinks the teams will do, and that's my preferred course of action. I know Erik's smart enough; he can do anything.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I'm good.
We're going to try to predict the future.
That was a shot, Jeff.
We're going to try to predict the future here. We're going to go with what the teams will do. Is there any reason why Trevor Lawrence isn't going first overall? Can anyone make that argument?
No.
Okay.
So, not unless there's incriminating pictures of him and a goat in Tijuana or something.
Larry Tunsil style.
Do we think, though? So, no, I mean, I think the answer to your question is there's really no reason, but if you want to spend a minute or two, I mean, what do you guys think about his progression as a player? Obviously, he had that magical run as a freshman, right? And took the football world by storm. But has he improved in the next two seasons? Has there been leaps in his play to the point where he's more than what he looked like as a freshman? Does it make sense? Like,
yes. So you were asking the question, is he Andrew Luck 2.0? Luck was the exact same quarterback when he retired from the Colts as he was the day he walked into Stanford.
Yeah.
He never got better. Now, he was damn good. But yes, I do see that with Lawrence. I think he is. I don't think he's going to get much better than he is right now. He might get better chemistry with his receivers, although he has some good ones there. He might wind up using his athleticism a little more at the next level. But yeah, as far as like mental processing and feel for the game and all that, he's as good as he's going to get. And he's, by the way, as good as it gets. So yeah, his ceiling is probably like he's right here. His ceiling's like right here. And you're looking at like Trey Lance, his ceiling's here and his floor is like down below my feet. Yeah, exactly. So that variance range isn't there. No, but yeah, again, like Andrew Luck, I think the Colts fans were pretty darn happy with Andrew Luck before the broken necks got to them and hindered him. But again, he was the exact same dude, in 2016 when I think it was when he retired, that he was when he walked into Stanford in 2008.
I think the thing that makes him the number one guy is that he's also consistently this guy, right?
Yep.
You don't see a lot of dips in his game like you do some of the other guys that have question marks. And so that consistent high level play is what makes a number one pick.
That consistency. There is a lot to be said for that. And that's what makes, as you said, the floor and that just gap between the ceiling and floor and Justin Fields, it becomes a gamble. And a lot of people don't like to gamble. They want, like Matthew Stafford was a pretty solid sure thing when we drafted him first overall. There weren't very many questions about him and him as a pick. I think Trevor Lawrence is very, very similar in that he's so consistent and you just know what you're going to get, no surprises, and now you think you can coach and improve on that as a team. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
We will see.
All right, we move on to number 2. Probably one of the best places to play football in the nation. The Jets of New York. Who wouldn't want to?
Hey, their green uniforms are fantastic.
Yeah, competence
dark greens,
as far as the eye can see. All right, I'm just going to go clockwise here. Riz, I'll start with you. Who do you see the Jets grabbing number 2 overall?
I think they are making a mistake by taking Zach Wilson. And Scott's about to hit me.
The feed cut out. What happened? Kidding. No, I get it. I do. I get it. I think that there is trepidation, and there should be about Zach Wilson. But I think there's a little psychological component to this, and this is where I'm just going to reveal things. I think so. In some ways, the excitement and the style in which he plays, I think, is a lure for some people. I think it's like, it's like chum in the water. His play style and the things that he does, and the exciting nature in some of what he does, is, for a person like me, it's alluring. It's attractive. I like it. But I could see somebody who's really who wants to bang the table about footwork or wants to really get into the technical stuff, not liking Zach Wilson and not liking his approach to the game. I mean, if you watch him, it's like neither of your feet are on the ground, and you threw it sidearm and underhand, and you put the no-look spin on it too. Like, you didn't need to do all those things. So there's a flash, I think, in which he plays, which I would tell you that I like it. I like to watch him play, but I also know that there's risk there. But knowing that I like that kind of stuff is important. It's like, you have to temper some of that stuff. So I love Zach Wilson as a player, but I like the flash at which he plays, the stuff he brings. I do understand where people might be very hesitant, though. I get it.
Yeah. No, I see that, and I'll take that over to another sport, MMA. And it's evolving as a sport. I only started watching this because of the quarantine, and it was the only sport on for a long time, and I just kind of got hooked into some of the little bit of the chess match that goes on that I never really recognized prior. It's evolving now to a point where a lot of the fighters are, look, I'm a showman. I have to put on a show. I need some of that flair, some of that extra juice out there. It had been frowned upon for so long because those guys always were the ones that got made to look like a fool, right? And it's coming into its own now with guys like O'Malley and so on, who are really going out there and trying to put on a great show. Maybe there's an evolution of that's happening societally and in the NFL, where like a Zach Wilson comes out and he's putting on a show, sometimes maybe when he doesn't have to, but boy, it does make it a heck of a lot more interesting to watch. Erik, what's your thoughts on Zach Wilson or somebody else to the Jets?
I think the thing with Zach Wilson is that he probably has a higher floor than like a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields, but he doesn't necessarily have the higher ceiling. And so if you're looking for a guy that can come in and play, he's the next quarterback that you're going to want in this draft class. And the Jets have really shown their hands, right? I mean, they're dealing Bradford away, and like, basically some of the comments they've made to the media, they've exposed the fact that they're going to take Wilson. And so they want a quarterback that can play. It's either him or Mac Jones. Like, those two guys can step on the field and play. Justin Fields, little question mark. He can probably do it. Trey Lance can't. Right. But he might have the highest ceiling. Right. So when you're debating between these different quarterbacks, really, it's all about what does this certain team need? And the Jets need a quarterback that can play. And that's Zach Wilson. And now we'll see how far that ceiling goes for him, but it doesn't look to be as high to me as some of the other quarterbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I have to hit the super chat. Nicholas, he comes in with Matt Patricia signs contracts with marinara sauce, and it may be true. That may be true. All right, so did we land on Zach Wilson?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move on then. Number 3, the 49ers are picking. Well, I don't want to say they took it because they gave up a lot, but they own the pick now from Houston. 3rd overall pick for the 49ers. I'll start with you this time, Erik. What are you thinking? Who's going over to San Fran?
I mean, this is tough because you could really go. I think it's quarterback, right? But it's just a matter of which one of the quarterbacks it's going to be. It's shocking to me how many people have connected Mac Jones to the 49ers just because of playing style. I get it. He's another I can play now type of quarterback, but again, his ceiling is the lowest of the 5. So I don't think you're going up to get Mac Jones, but it sure seems like a lot of NFL people do think that. I think if you're going up for a guy who you can sit for a year or challenge Garoppolo, because if the 49ers were in the same situation as the Jets, they would have moved on from Garoppolo already, just like the Jets did. So I think they're looking more at someone who doesn't necessarily have to play now, has a higher ceiling. And to me, that's going to be either Justin Fields or Trey Lance. If it's kind of a gut here, I'm going to go with Fields as my gut.
Justin Fields. All right. Scott, we'll hand it over to you. Where's your head at? Justin Fields here to the Niners?
I don't know. It's interesting because Fields has connections to Kyle Shanahan, and that offensive system it makes it real friendly for quarterbacks. So it's almost like it's tough to see all of those guys failing in San Francisco. Like, do we think that them moving up to 3, targeting a player like Justin Fields, do we think he's going to fail? I don't know. I mean, I think is he going to be a superstar? Probably not, but I mean, it's a very friendly system. So all those guys can do things in that system, but Erik mentions it. It's, they have Garoppolo. I think Garoppolo is going to play. I think it makes sense for whoever they draft to have to sit or to have some time to ready themselves to play at the NFL level. But it's interesting. I look at Justin Fields and I see his second pro day workout and I see him, out of the shotgun. His entire career has been with his left foot forward. Yep. Right. And I know we all know this stuff, but so Shanahan likes to have his quarterbacks, and Matt Ryan did this back when Shanahan was with the Falcons. All of a sudden his right foot's forward. And then you see Fields' workout the other day and it's his right foot's forward. And I'm thinking they're doing this specifically to appeal to Shanahan. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know that. I mean, I think Lance did the same thing today. So, mm-hmm. I don't know that it's Mac Jones. It wouldn't make sense to me to give up all the capital they gave up to go up to get Mac Jones at 3. And I don't buy the concept that the 49ers were cool with just whoever was going to be there at 3. They were
Agreed.
Cool. I'm not sure
Agreed.
anybody does that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I know that they had conversations with the Jets, and I think they have a very strong understanding of who the Jets are taking. So it's just a matter of them saying, it's either Fields or Lance or Mac Jones. We're going to fall in love with one of those guys, and we will then make that pick. I just don't have a great answer. I talked for a long time, and I'm going to tell you I have no clue who they're taking. I think it's Fields, but I don't know.
Mike Hodges actually made the point that I was going to in the chat. They'll sit for 3 games until Garoppolo's inevitable injury, whoever it is.
Somebody's going to shove him off the bus, and things are going to go well.
He's not wrong there. I mean, look what happened last year. Tyrod Taylor gets stabbed in the lung by their team trainer to get Justin Herbert on the field. Weird shit happens, guys. You know it.
You're going to get value out of that first-round pick one way or another.
That's still the most unbelievably underreported story ever.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
It's incredible.
It really is.
Where's the lawsuit is the real question. That's there's something happened there. All right, Riz, where are you at here? Number 3 to the Niners.
So I have generally bought into the hubbub that Mac Jones would be the pick, but I've sort of come back the other way in the last couple of days. I feel very similar to Erik on this, and I think, and one of the reasons why I think this is because I do watch the gambling lines, because the gamblers, they do not lose money on these things. Fields has gone down to plus 100 at a lot of books for this. And Jones was at 150, and now he's up to 250 or even 300 at some books. That's telling me that either the big money thinks that Fields is going to be the pick, or somebody knows that he's going to be the pick. Yeah. I'm going to follow that money, and I'm going to go with Justin Fields there.
Yeah, that's.
I like Scott said, I can't fathom somebody moving up that far to get Mac Jones when there's a fair chance. Although there's a fair chance he would have been there at 12. I kind of doubt it, just because, and I'll say this, and I've said this before, the more I watched of Mac Jones, the more I liked what I saw. The guy gets too much crap from people. The guy can play.
And he's not a statue. I mean, he's
not. He can move.
He can, but I think it's his desire to deal with pressure differently than other guys. Like his desire is not to scramble and avoid pressure and make plays on the run. He wants to. I still see him as more wanting to manipulate subtle movements inside the pocket and stay there, where other guys want to vacate.
And that's very Shanahan-esque. That's
hard to do in the NFL too, though. Let's be honest, with the athleticism of the defensive lineman nowadays versus the role of the offensive lineman. You're gonna be tough to find a team where you get to live in that preferential place.
Yeah, and you're going to need a good offensive line in front of him. He had that at Alabama. He certainly had premium weapons. San Francisco has some decent wide receivers. I know we all love Deebo Samuel. I know we like some of the other guys that they got there. So
Ayuk, yeah,
exactly. We were a big fan of his last year.
Yeah.
So I will say that it will be Fields here, but that's more of an educated guess than knowing anything.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. To me, they tipped their hand with giving up all that treasure to move up. I think that's just you don't do that for Mac Jones. You could probably go to 9. You could probably go a lot of different places.
Could have gone to 7.
Yeah, to get
that would have been beautiful.
That would have been great.
All right, so we're going to settle in on Justin Fields for the 49ers at number 3 overall. Stepping in now, number 4, Atlanta is up. Oh, they're aching for a replacement for Matt Ryan. That's what I heard on the Globe at the supermarket stands. I don't even know if that stuff exists anymore. Atlanta, Scott will let you lead the way here. Who's Atlanta picking number 4?
Is there any conversation about them trading out at this point? 3 quarterbacks are gone. Trey Lance is on the board. Mac Jones is on the board. Anybody?
I think Denver would call. I think New England would probably call. I think Chicago would probably call.
Washington
could certainly call, absolutely.
But they just said they're happy with their quarterbacks.
Atlanta in a position where they could take a defensive player, which is what they really need. They need defenders more than they need really anything else. Yeah. I mean, you could always use a tackle, right? I mean, it's important, but looking at that team and their needs, it's more on the defensive side of the ball, and it's tough to justify taking a defender at pick 4, which is kind of where, I mean, I think there's going to be some speculation about Kyle Pitts going potentially to Atlanta.
Yep.
But I think if it were us 4 running the show in Atlanta, we would be doing everything we could to try to move back a little bit, address the defensive side of the ball, and get a future first-round pick to then be able to retool post Matt Ryan. But
trade back to 7? You can have it. Take the 2023. Take the Rams 2023 pick. You can have it. I want 4.
Sold.
All right, Erik, are you buying? Are you buying this trade?
You mentioned New England.
They're not going to do that. The Lions won't do that. But I would.
But we mentioned Denver. We mentioned New England. We mentioned Washington. Chicago, I think, could be a player. It doesn't seem like they have a lot of assets, but if teams are smart and they're looking at this draft as volatile as it's going to be and wanting to get picks in future years, Chicago could make this kind of a move.
You could get picks. You could move up easier this year by giving up future picks for next year and the year beyond that than you normally could. That trade chart that I'm actually about to publish at Lions Wire in the morning is fairly obsolete this year, because the value of picks next year is going to be that much greater, because we're going to have so much more insight. We're going to have a combine. We're going to have a college season.
Yep.
God willing. We're gonna have so much more on the ball, and by the way, there's going to be so many more players that are in it, because I think there were a lot of players that were going to enter this year that either they're using that extra year of eligibility, or they're transferring somewhere, or they're doing something where you didn't have as many early entrants in that middle class, like the second, third round, as you normally get most years. Guys who are going early this year are either like early first round picks or late picks, that middle class, which is where you normally get a lot of the guys who declare early. They just didn't come out as much this year.
Let me ask you about pressure in the other direction, though. There's going to be a ton of free agents out there, right? There's going to be a ton of guys out there right now, and you're going to see a real surge in the cap. What is that? Does that devalue those draft picks a little bit, because you can start building out your team with some guys that are still young, just finishing their first contract or just finished in their second 1-year contract, right? I mean, it seems like there's going to be a smorgasbord of players available. It's going to be a buyer's market next year, I think, for talent, for sure. Which, boy, that puts the Lions right in a good spot to rebuild the team. But then again, everybody's in that same spot if they have any kind of salary cap available. All right, let's keep going. Oh, Nicholas, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Lions trade up for 4 for franchise quarterback McCorkle Jones. All right. All right, Erik, why don't you talk some sense into us? Is anyone trading up to with Atlanta, or are they going to pick?
Well, the trick becomes, do one of these teams think that Atlanta is going to pass on a quarterback and then they can get a cheaper trade with the Lions, right? Because teams aren't going to – moving up to 4 is going to cost, right? And especially when you're talking about Chicago and Washington, and even New England, it's going to cost quite a bit. And New England seems awfully apprehensive to shed draft picks based on their history, right? So you could talk me into Denver wanting to move up to 4, but I don't know. I don't know if they would, if they're absolutely going to go that direction. You have to look at this from the fact that Atlanta also has a new GM and they also have a new head coach. And while they did give Matt Ryan they did restructure his contract, and they're in the same situation as the Lions, where they've got him for a quarterback for 2 years, right? And beyond that, are they going to need a quarterback? So I don't know if they're sold on a quarterback. I think Kyle Pitts makes some sense here. I think they would like to trade out, but let's try and focus it this way. If they have to stay there and make the pick, who do you think that they would take, right? Like, I don't know if Scott, I don't know if you have an opinion on who you think they would take. I think they would take Kyle Pitts, because when you've got Julio Jones under contract for a couple of years, but Ridley is in his last year of his contract. They were a very explosive offense when they had a tight end, when Hooper was there. And so adding a Kyle Pitts would really turn this offense around fairly quickly. So I could see the GM wanting a quarterback. I could also see them looking at Kyle Pitts and saying, to a lot of teams, this is the best non-quarterback in the class. So do you have an opinion on if they'd go quarterback or Pitts?
Well, I think the point about Pitts is valid from the sense of what it would be, what it would do versatility-wise for their offense. And it would give Matt Ryan one last or two last, whatever you want to call it, a last shot. Pitts is super intriguing. I think he would fit well with Hayden Hurst. I think he would be a player that obviously wherever Pitts goes, you need to move him around the formation. It's one of the reasons why a destination like Detroit or Philadelphia is so intriguing. And it's the opposite of what I think most people would normally think is, well, the Lions already have a tight end. But the ability for them to put Hockenson attached to the line of scrimmage and then play Pitts on the backside of a formation, or to come out, 5 wide with Pitts and Hockenson and have a defense then respond by going small with, their dime package. Okay, well, we're just going to bring it. We're going to bring everybody back in tight. We're going to audible back in and run where we have mismatches. Same thing can be said for, you come out in a heavy look and the defense stays with their heavy look, and then you audible and you spread everything out, and now you have mismatches. Yep. And that's the Pitts thing, is he's going to give you mismatches all over the field. So the question is, do they want to give Matt Ryan a last run? I think Pitts is in play at pick 4. I really do. But is Trey Lance in play in Atlanta. He's a perfect fit there. And then the other side is a player like Penei Sewell available in the conversation. Right. So to me, it's those three. And Sewell, I think is he's 20 years old. He's going to be 20 at the start of the season. 25 years old, signing his second contract. I just think he's going to play somewhere for a very long time. It's just, so this is the part where we talked about it. This draft is going to be wild because we don't know what a team like Atlanta with a new GM and a new head coach thinks about Matt Ryan. We know they've extended him, but do they really believe that he's going to help them or potentially help them win for 2 years? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think it's probably Pitts. Mm-hmm. And if they want to be conservative about developing and building, then it might be Sewell. But tough, Yeah.
Here's for me, I'm not as high on Sewell going here, and the reason is because you've got Jake Matthews, who they used the first round pick on back in 2014 at left tackle. You've got Caleb McGarry, who they used the first round pick on in 2019 at right tackle. And then, so are you going to play him at guard? And if you are you going to spend a number 4 pick on a guard? I like the idea of Sewell. I'm very intrigued at adding offensive linemen, especially ones that are at a high level where you can. I just don't know if that's in the mix. For me, it's Lance or Pitts. It's one of those two for me. And I just don't know which way Fontenot is going, right? I don't know if he's like, I got to get my quarterback because he might need 2 years, and I've only got Matt Ryan for 2 years. The bottom line for me, though, is when you look at the quarterbacks, historically, you have, like, let's say 3-4 in a class. 2 of them are going to bust, right? Yeah. And so if you've got 5 in this class, how many of them are going to bust? And if you don't get your choice with the first 3, how confident are you in your ability to analyze Trey Lance over 19 games and say, oh, for sure, he's the guy, and I'm betting my GM career on it? Because if you get to that 3rd year and he busts and now Matt Ryan's gone, well, it's goodbye Fontenot, right?
Yep.
So I don't know if he'd be – in my mind, I think he would double down on Matt Ryan, give him a weapon and say, hey, we were in a lot of games last year that just went the wrong way. Maybe we can get them to go the right way. That's why I'm leaning Pitts here.
Yeah.
That's fair, and they have picked 35. You can address the defensive side of the ball early in round 2.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. And Pitts is he is a transformative player. I think he would take that offense, and that's a really good offense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it would then become a very problematic offense.
And I'll tell you, I'm all about the regime wanting to get their quarterback in a little bit. They want to do their work right now and build that team out. And I think they're going to show up with a quarterback in a little bit to replace Ryan. I don't think that's the first place they want to go. We moved your Erik Schlitt for a moment, but I'm about to change that, Riz. Just bouncing windows in and out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my bad. My internet, as it often does, tend to cut out. My son wasn't even here to make popcorn, so that wasn't the issue.
All right, well, we got you back.
Oh, he's back now. He's actually the only kid that can reach where the router is, which is like up above our kitchen stuff.
No popcorn, son. All right.
He's good.
He
needs to shower.
We're wrestling here between Pitts and Lance. Thank you, Trey Lance. We're leaning towards Pitts. And
I think they're taking Pitts. I think the fact that he is an unusual weapon is going to be intriguing to them. The fact that they have a new regime in, I think that buys them a little time with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's still good. I think that gets lost. He had a pretty darn good year. He is a guy that you do have to protect well. But yeah, I think so. When I did I did a mock draft a couple weeks ago where I tried to trade up or trade back, and I contacted wire editors. I talked to radio people that I know. I talked to team personnel that I know for a couple of teams. Every single team said we're not moving up unless it's for Kyle Pitts. Every single one of them. I have to think that the Falcons are going to see that sort of demand and be like, why don't we take him? You know?
And
one of the teams I think that we got to pay attention to is Dallas here.
Oh yeah, because they're in love with Pitts.
And
yes, Jerry has already spent many a napkin on that. Yes.
Oh boy. That's wheelhouse, though, right? I mean, to go from 10 to 4.
Yeah.
I think Atlanta would love that kind of a trade.
Yeah.
It's like the Lions going from 7 to 12. It's a similar type of thing.
I think that Kyle Pitts will be the number 4 pick. Whether it's Atlanta or somebody else making it is probably the only real question I have.
That's fair.
Okay.
All right, we'll go with Kyle Pitts. We're going to leave Atlanta there just for the sake of curbing that conversation. Although I'll tell you, I feel like there's some parallels with Atlanta and Matt Ryan and the Lions and Jared Goff, in that you have some quarterbacks that are a little older that have shown themselves to be completely capable, but more recently maybe haven't played as well, and you don't know as much. Is it the system? Is it the players? Is it a combination? And a lot of those same narratives, and new front office, right? A lot of those narratives run side by side there, so it's going to be interesting.
And their GM comes from the Saints, where head coach comes from as well.
Yes.
So you have to think that they have the same or similar organizational values.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we got Pitts to Atlanta. That leaves us with Cincinnati, well known for having the best practice facility in the NFL. Cincinnati, number 5 overall. Risdon, where are you going first, man?
So it's either going to be Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase. And for months and months and months, we were all locked in. Oh, they have to take Penei Sewell. Oh, my God. He's the greatest offensive line prospect since at least Greg Robinson. No question about it.
Oh, boy.
And I will just say I do see a tremendous amount of parallels between Penei Sewell and Greg Robinson as prospects coming out of college. It doesn't mean that I think that Sewell is going to wind up like Greg Robinson, but you damn well better believe that the NFL is worried about that more than you might think they are. There are scary amount of athletic parallels between those two and stylistic parallels. He is not the consensus number 1 overall tackle. I can guarantee you that.
I don't know that he's the number 1 tackle on Cincinnati's board.
Exactly. And the only real question, if Rashawn Slater had 1 inch longer arms, there would be no question he'd be the number 1 tackle on just about everybody's board. I know that Lions fans who don't really watch Northwestern and apparently don't watch Penn State either would be shocked by that. Sorry, Scott, I had to throw you a bone, buddy.
We're going to get into this. All right.
But so the question is, do you value a guy in Sewell who is he's a very, very strong prospect. He's a very talented young man, and he could wind up being a great lockdown tackle. Or do you reunite Joe Burrow, your franchise quarterback, with the guy that he set college football records with, who set the SEC record for receptions, yards, the touchdown scoring yardage for a receiver of Chase's ilk? My God. So it's got to be one of those two.
Yep.
I talked with a couple of different Bengals people, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that, and they were split. One of them told me Chase, and one of them told me, "Oh, it's Sewell, hands down." So I don't know who to believe on that, and I don't know.
Here's my guess.
Amongst yourselves.
Here's my guess. We've already seen Burrow go to the front office and say, "I want my guy. I want Chase with me." This is a very tackle strong class, and if you really think you need a tackle, you could get a tackle at 35 or 34, whatever they pick, right?
Yep.
I think they make their quarterback happy and they give him Chase.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
And I got to say, just he corrected it later, but Loretto says, "I really like Erik with the gray in his beard. It's like I can trust him even more." So I think with that, with that gray in the beard, I think we've just consensusized on Jamar Chase.
I got to tell a story. So I paid 23andMe all this money to do an ancestry thing on me, and they sent something to me like 2 months later about like these Neanderthal traits that I have, and it was offensive. Like you have, like the email was literally, I read it almost like, "Are you able to walk?" kind of thing. Like, I can't believe I paid you all this money for this. And you know what? The latest thing they sent me an email and asked me how old I was when my hair started to turn gray, and I was like, it never stood a chance. I can't believe I paid you people. I don't know why I'm telling this, but
I find your genetics offensive too, Scott, so it's okay.
It's unbelievable. So, it's the gray hair. So the thing is, back to football.
Oh.
If you knew that you were going to get Jamar Chase, and let's say Cincinnati wanted to be very aggressive towards the middle to end part of round 2, and a player like Tevin Jenkins is available, and you trade up for Tevin Jenkins, and you walk out of day 1 with Tevin Jenkins and Jamar Chase, I think you're looking at the Bengals and thinking it was very smart what they did. As opposed to taking like Penei Sewell at pick 5 and then drafting pick a wide receiver in round 2.
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah. I mean, which way do you like that? I mean, I think it's Chase. And by the way, watching the 2019 film of Burrow and Chase, when things broke down, those guys were unbelievable together. They just were.
Yep.
So, I think that's the way to go. There's risk there. Obviously, you want to keep your first rounder, the first overall pick from 2 years ago. You want to keep him upright, but giving him Jamar Chase and then putting Chase with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, that's a pretty solid offense, right? I mean, and then there's the Jonah Williams plays left tackle for us, so we need a right tackle type guy. Tevin Jenkins is that guy. You could go. Jalen Mayfield from Michigan could be potentially that guy. So I think that's where. I think Chase is a really intriguing spot at pick 5, and I would be taking Chase and then looking to be very aggressive with the right tackle who I thought could play for a long time. That's the way I would go.
Yeah, no, I like that. So Jamar Chase, number 5 to Cincinnati. A couple of housekeeping things first. Justin, thank you so much, man. Super chat, $100. You guys rock. Can't listen now. I'll catch the download. Wow. Keep up the great work. Hope Green Bay trades up for a quarterback again. Really awesome of you. Thank you.
That'd be great.
And then Mr. Relax has probably one of the funnier comments of the day. I would trade all of our 2021 draft capital for a really good weak side linebacker. Not for a great one, though. I need something to complain about later. That is a Lions fan right there. I could tell you got your bona fides. Bona fides. All right, we'll move on to number 6. We've got Miami, who gave up a good bit of treasure to Philadelphia to move up in the draft. So far, we've got Trevor Lawrence going first, Zach Wilson to the Jets, Justin Fields to the Niners, Kyle Pitts to Atlanta, Jamar Chase to Cincinnati. Here we sit now with Miami on the board. I'm going to start off with you again, Erik, because the grade just makes me really believe it.
Look, they specifically went to 6 for a reason, right? They felt like they needed to be in the 6 range because either they thought 3 quarterbacks were going to go and there were 3 non-quarterbacks that they liked. I don't know exactly who that person is, but they wanted to get ahead of Detroit for a reason. So are they in love with like Sewell? I don't know. They spent a first-round pick on a left tackle last year in Austin Jackson. Then they spent the second-round pick on a tackle in Robert Hunt, right? So they've already invested high capital in their tackle. So I don't know if it's necessarily him. This is where the Parsons conversation comes in. There's all these rumors, right, that the Lions have interest in Parsons, and maybe it's legit, or maybe it's just a lot of smoke because they're trying to get somebody to jump ahead of them, like with Miami. So I'm not 100% sure if they're going to target a guy like Parsons, or if they're just going to take the best wide receiver on the board, right? You just bought in on Will Fuller. You still got Devonta Parker. So I'm actually a little torn on this pick. I don't have a really strong lean. I wouldn't be surprised if they were looking at a guy like Devonta Smith from Alabama, right? I don't know if someone else has a stronger lead that they want to take on this, but I don't think this is necessarily Sewell. I do think they're looking at, like I said, Parsons or a receiver. That's just kind of my gut.
So I was told about 6 weeks in that range that the Dolphins really liked Sewell.
Okay, great.
But, again,
Tastes
it's lying
change.
season, right? So you just don't know what you're hearing kind of stuff. But, it makes some sense when you think about what they've done in the draft and maybe moving the player they took last year, Hunt, into guard kind of thing.
Hunt can do that. He's a good player.
Yeah, and it kind of solidifies the offensive line for Tua. But then there's the wide receiver component of things, and you know, is it Devonta Smith? It's an interesting conversation with Smith with the body size and with just how low density he is. But you know, it's tough to watch him and see him get pushed around. You don't see it much. He runs through press. He plays a physical style of football. There's Jaylen Waddle, who I can't think of a more exciting player. It's like he was wearing a jetpack kind of thing. So it's more like, you know, you just got Will Fuller. He's your vertical guy. I would think that if Miami's looking at receiver, which Miami has receiver needs. I think they need offensive linemen. They need defensive linemen. You're not taking a defensive lineman here, but you could, you know, they have pick 18 and they have picked 36. So you could take a receiver with pick 18 if you decided to go O-line in this range. But I could see Devonta Smith sort of meshing well with what they already have there. You have Mike Gesicki. You have the vertical weapon with Will Fuller. You have Devontae Parker, you know, your bigger red zone type. And then you have pure route runner and Devonta Smith. And all of a sudden, it's a pretty good stable of receivers for Tua.
Yeah, and Smith can live in the slot too. Like, he doesn't have to be on the outside. And I've said this before about Smith. Everyone knew the ball was going to him this year, especially when Waddle went down, and he still got it, and he still got open, and he still produced even when they knew the ball was coming his way. And so he finds a way to produce it, and I think he gets dung a lot for the legs, but I'm not as worried about those you know, that lower body as some people are. I think he's a good player. I think he would fit in with what they have. Like you said, stylistically with the receivers, he makes sense. The one thing I do want to point out, though, as far as with Parsons, before I pass it over to Jeff here, their linebackers are pretty rough. But what do they have? McKinley and Jerome Baker. That's not super great, right?
It would be
so that's better. Why
nothing better than if Micah Parsons went in front of the 6. Period.
Sure.
Let me ask you, because we've talked about it on the show. Riz and I, we've beat this horse. Well, there's two things. One, you said he was dung. Do you mean he was dinged or was it crap? Because I didn't know which one it was, but both fit, so it worked out.
Like grammar police, I love it.
Yeah,
I'm infecting America.
I can't. Okay, so no, the question I want to ask you guys really is about Smith. The big knock that he gets from everybody is about size, right? And he's not going to be able to withstand in the NFL. And then the counterpoint is always, did you ever see Golden Tate? The guy never took a hit. He lasted a long time. He was the guy that could really, really avoid a hit and do all kinds of things like Smith did. I'll start with you, Erik, really quick. What's your thoughts on the knock on size for Smith?
I'm not worried about it. Like you said, like I can't remember when he actually got hit like significantly. You know, like he what he did against Ohio State in the national championship was astounding, right? Yep. 200 yards in the first half, and then he's like, "Oh, my wrist, I'll just sit the second half," right? So like, I'm not as big. Look, you look at the historical data, and it says there's a low chance of him being durable, but look, you can't always rely on data. You have to put what you see. And see, and you have to be able to translate that as an analyst, right? And from my perspective, he translates. He's a top 10 pick all day for me.
Yep. Okay, Scott, where's your head at? Same, different?
It's in a similar place. It's just, I think there are moments on film where you do see him get pressed and you do see him struggle to get off that, where he'll get pushed into the boundary kind of thing. But there are also moments when he plays a lot bigger than his size. Like I don't think there's any way he played at 170 pounds. I just don't. I think he was lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, watching him play, he plays physical. He doesn't go down easy. He works through contact. He does all those things. It's just, I think it's going to get a little more difficult for him at the NFL level, but he runs routes so well. I think he'll be okay. And it's just a matter of like the finish for what he would do for their offense, I think is more intriguing than it may be for some other offenses.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to jump in real fast. I'm sorry. You get him in the slot where he's successful. You've got smaller bodies, less likely to get pressed. The slot is really where I think he's going to make a lot of money at the next level.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love it. Thank you so much, Riz. I'm gonna unleash the Riz now. Sorry, I wanted to get their opinion because
no, you're good.
I wanted to get a diversity.
So from Miami, we had Kyle Krabs, noted Dolphins guy, and I forget
Draft
what title
Network.
is it? Yeah, Draft Network.
Right.
Super guru, one of the smartest people I know, did a great job on here. He thought they moved up for Pitts. In this situation, Pitts isn't here. I think the overriding theme is that they moved up to get Tua weapons. They need to make Tua work.
Mm-hmm.
Their wide receiving core is not great. Gesicki is a decent tight end. He's not as good as Hawkinson, if you're playing score that way, but he's close. He can be close to him anyways. But they sorely need a number one weapon, be it on the outside or be a guy that can play in the slot. Gesicki likes to play in the slot. You can move him around. You can have two. You can have a double slot. You can come out of multiple formations, things like that. Smith gives you that. I think Jaylen Waddle also gives you that, and I think he's the premium weapon. I know Krabs had him as his number one wide receiver, and I'm not going to argue with Kyle on that because I see what he sees. So I think they would look at him. But Erik raises a very good point. Parsons is the type of – they are coached by Brian Flores. Who did Brian Flores play under or coach under? He's from not just the Belichick tree. He's from the Parcells tree, where big, thumping middle linebackers are the focus of your defense. They're literally the only people in the NFL who care about that whatsoever these days. But they're in Tennessee. They're in Miami. They used to be in Atlanta. They used to be in Houston. They're not anymore.
They used to be in Detroit.
They did used to be in Detroit. Thank God that's over. So the question is does Flores value that as much as we think that a guy like Matt Patricia would, or a guy like Bill Belichick would, although I think Belichick has learned from the error of his ways that you have to have a little bit more than that. I don't know, man, because they really do they need middle of the field defense. Mm-hmm. They have to have it. And Parsons, his ability to blitz from there and also line up on the outside, lined up over a tight end, throw the tight end to the ground and then go get the quarterback. He's really good at that.
Do we feel like they can do that at pick 18 though?
Yes, and that's the other thing. This draft is stupid deep in off-ball linebackers. Stupid deep. You can get.
What's the safe word, Risdon? What's your safe word?
You can get
Micah Parsons at 7, right?
You can get guys in the 4th round this year who would have been first-round off-ball linebackers a year ago. That there's just that many of them, and the demand is so freaking low for them right now. Because most teams, if they need them, they have one already. Miami is about the only team that needs one, really needs one, and doesn't have one. So I don't know, man. I do see what Erik sees, that, okay, we had to get up because Detroit could feasibly take Parsons because Detroit obviously needs an off-ball linebacker. And they need more than that, they need an impacted defender. I don't think position is, to cheat ahead a little bit here, I don't think position is as important for the Lions as getting somebody who can freaking play.
Yeah.
To go Dan Campbell. They need somebody who is an alpha presence on the field and off the field. And that is Parsons, for better or for worse. The guy is an impact talent when he's on the field. You'll never hear me besmirch his potential. I think people overhype certain parts of his potential and downplay other things. But
so can I jump in just for a second right here? Because I think it's the perfect jumping point. He is an incredible athlete.
Yes, he is.
No doubts. But to just assume that he's going to end up being a reliable player in coverage, even though that's just not what Penn State does with them, I think we've seen that mistake get made. Jared, you mentioned it earlier on Twitter, Jeff, and it's an apt comparison. Jared Davis would run himself out of gaps, being aggressive and attacking. He would get out of position. So does Parsons. It's not to the extreme that Davis does, but it's there. It's there though. There's a hint of that in his play, but you don't see. He's not dropping back into coverage. If anything, he's blitzing. He's coming off the corner. So if you're telling me that they're taking a 2-down linebacker who's going to give them some blitz stuff on 3rd down, and they're going to do that with the 6th pick in the draft, I don't know. I mean, I think you could even be reaching on a player like Jamin Davis at pick 18. I think that's early for him, like really early for him. But I think similar things.
Yeah, Zaven Collins is a good fit there.
Yes. And I think Zaven Collins might be a better football player than Parsons, and he's just not the flashy athlete that Parsons is. But
let me ask you this. So last year we had a conversation in Lions Land about Isaiah Simmons at number 3, about how he was this transcendent talent that could do anything. Week 1, he couldn't cover Jesse James. Jesse freaking James. And Parsons, you're right, Scott. On film, his drops, he's never covered anybody in man. They go shallow drop. They will have him roll to the middle of the field as a robber occasionally. But in terms of like turning and running with the tight end, he doesn't do that. Lining up.
No, and I don't think that's his game. I don't think that's his game at all.
They didn't ask him to do that either, so he would have to learn how to do that. When there are guys, Jamin Davis, he can do that. We've seen him do that at Kentucky. We saw him do it incredibly well last year. Baron Browning at Ohio State can do that. There are guys, Zaven Collins, one of the best coverage linebackers I've ever seen off the ball. Now, he did it at Tulsa, and that's certainly a different league than what you're playing in.
Still, the depth of his drops and his ability to find the ball, plus the size.
It's rocking, man. I love that
guy.
He's the dream pick for the Browns at 26, although I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, it's I see too many people in Lions Land who apparently have only ever heard that Micah Parsons is the only linebacker who played football in 2019, and simultaneously they clearly didn't watch him play.
Plus, there's the off the field stuff, which is
right. So the general thing that I've gotten from the NFL is that he passes that sniff test, but they're not letting it go.
Yeah,
like you got 1 strike. It's not 2 strikes. It's not like Reuben Foster coming in or Alden Smith or anything like that. But he's got that strike. But they're willing to let him get another one before. And that's I've heard that from a bunch of different sources.
All right.
I'm not comfortable with it. I don't think Scott is. I don't think Erik is all that much. But I think that the NFL is willing to overlook some there. Some, not entirely, but some.
I'm getting the sense though. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Does he fit with Miami right at pick 6?
He does. That's the thing. But I'll go back to what Kyle told us. They moved up for a weapon.
Yep.
And the best weapon on the board right now is Jaylen Waddle, in my opinion. I would entertain an argument for Smith because I also think he's very good. I think with Waddle, you're getting a little bit more. And this is something that Emery Hunt told us last week, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Who was more productive when both of them were on the field?
Jaylen Waddle
was.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about Micah Parsons. It looks like we're out on him at 6. So now we're kind of juggling between Smith and Scott and Erik. We're talking about Devonta Smith earlier, and we've now kind of thrown some Waddle into the mix. Erik, what are you thinking between Smith and Waddle?
Yeah, I tell you, I have Waddle higher on the board as well. I just I threw Smith out there because I think he fits real well with what they're doing. You could apply the same thing to Waddle realistically. The Waddle and Fuller are stylistically similar in the fact that they're both speedy deep threats. But you look what KC does with them, right? I mean, like they've got a couple speedy threats, and it's not like they run over each other or anything. So I'd be okay if you guys were leaning Waddle over Smith here. It wouldn't bother me. I'm 51-49.
Put your Miami hat on.
Slants to Waddle and having Will Fuller run vertical shots.
Say that one more time.
Just throwing little slants to Waddle.
Yeah.
Letting him run and throwing vertical shots to Fuller.
Yeah.
And then flooding parts of the field with Gesicki and Devontae Parker running deeper dig type routes. I mean, it gives you multiple layers.
I like the formulation of that offense. I wish they had a good quarterback.
Well, look, but you also talk about the fact that we paired Chase with Burrow.
Yeah.
Waddle played with Tua. So actually, Waddle and Smith both played with Tua, right? So, like,
makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of production we saw more production out of Smith when Tua was there because Ruggs was in there right ahead of Waddle. Or am I going too far back? Regardless,
you're fine.
Okay.
You're good.
So yeah, those Bama guys, man, they're just loaded.
They just load them up and shoot them out, man.
Pete's.
Yep.
I'm indifferent. I take either one. I'm comfortable with either. If you guys are leaning one over the other,
we'd have to ask Tua's dad, I guess.
Scott, where you at? What?
Waddle. I would go Waddle. If it were me, I'd be Waddle all day.
I'm Waddle here too. I have Waddle rated higher, and I think they will too. So I'll go with Waddle.
All right.
I think he has less size concerns, although he's not big either.
Right.
And he ironically enough, is coming off the injury. It's a broken bone, though. Broken bones are relatively easier to come back. It's not a soft tissue injury. Soft tissue injuries are more indicative of frailty, and you don't get that with either of those guys, honestly.
Yep. All right, so far we've got Jacksonville taking Trevor Lawrence, New York Jets taking Zach Wilson, the 49ers Justin Fields, Atlanta Kyle Pitts, Cincinnati with Jamar Chase, Miami taking Jaylen Waddle. And as we get here to number 7, I want you all to remember, as Lions fans, you're about to get your pick, and I wish this was around back in the Ebron days. Head on over to cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com, cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com. Take care of your pain, anxiety, and insomnia so oft caused by this team. You get a great deal if you use coupon code LIONS at the checkout. You'll get 50% off. They've got all kinds of sales this week, but just for everyone, I like to kind of make this distinction so you know. There's regular old everyday CBD that they have. That's great stuff. Takes care of all those pain, anxiety, and insomnia. Takes care of all those things. And you can pass a drug test. Now they have this other stuff called Delta 8, their chill line, and their Delta 8 Extreme. That stuff, it won't pass a drug test, and you'll get a massive buzz. Like, just take one the first time and then see what happens. Chill out, because I've gotten stories from people who have done way too many and lost a night. Evidently, it works really well. So if you're after the buzz as well as pain, anxiety, and insomnia, you can go with that chill line. Again, head over to cbd.detroitlionspodcast.com and take care of that head of yours. All right. Number 7, you've got your CBD infused. You're ready to handle it. We've got Micah Parsons on the board, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready? Are you going to make the pick? Are you going to pull the trigger?
Well, I am not.
What's wrong with an off-ball linebacker at 7?
So,
all right.
So let me tell you where I'm at with this, because I am doing the Philadelphia Eagles in-house thing. Fran Duffy, we all know him, asked me to make the Lions pick for them in their mock draft, and I made this pick earlier today, and the board fell exactly like this from the people that he asked before me. I went Penei Sewell here at 7 because I think that's what the Lions will do. I think they're going to take Penei Sewell if Waddle and Chase are off the board, and Fields, because I do think they would take Justin Fields if he was available. I don't think they're taking any other quarterback here. We can certainly discuss the merits of Trey Lance. I wouldn't be opposed to taking Trey Lance here, but I don't think they're going to do it. And with the wide receivers the way they are, I don't think they're taking Devonta Smith. I don't see them seeing him in the way that we do, or the way that some other teams will. I just don't get that vibe from them. I also think that Brad Holmes has learned that Tavon Austin didn't work.
That was his first, when he was a college director. That was the first round pick for Holmes.
Yeah. Oops. He did follow it up with Brockers, thankfully.
Yes,
twice.
I tell you this. I think we should probably expand.
What else are you thinking about here? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, because like right now, I'm with you. I think if the board lays like this, it's Sewell. And Scott's, I think, you can see he's with us as well. Like this became a very, very boring pick real fast, right? But I could see that. I could see Slater making a case, making a push.
Yes.
I do think Slater is underrated. I do think if Sewell was off the board, we would be still talking about Slater here as a potential option. I think he's that highly rated. He could go in the top 7. I think I'm not in love with Smith at this point, just for the Lions and what they're trying to do. And I don't like Micah Parsons here. And I'm not as in love with Trey Lance here either. I think I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about Atlanta. The bust rate on quarterbacks is so high. Expecting all 5 of these guys to hit is I think naive, right? And so I don't think that Brad Holmes is going to risk his future on a guy that he may not see the field for 2 years right now. I think he wants to see what he has in Goff before he weighs in on a quarterback. So I think it's Sewell. Slater's going to give him a big push here. Smith would be kind of right in that mix too, but I think Sewell would, if he fits exactly what they're looking for, and an Oregon tackle replaces another Oregon tackle at right tackle for the Lions.
All right, and I'm going to challenge really quick and hand it to you, Scott. Okay, there's an argument that the Lions are in pretty good shape at the offensive line overall, comparatively in the league. Right? It's I'm of the mind that you can never be satisfied at offensive line because the defensive players are just so crazy athletic. But at some point, you just got to say, okay, that's going to be good enough. Conversely, you look at, if we're going to evaluate Jared Goff and get a good understanding of what he is as a quarterback, he needs some weapons that are more than wide receiver 3 or 4, right? Mm-hmm. And this would be a great time to get something like that. When you think about the difference in value you'd get at a wide receiver now versus an offensive lineman in the second round, and vice versa, right? I just want you to kind of weigh in on that a little bit, because I know a lot of people are thinking, I want weapons right now, and this is a good spot to get a good weapon to evaluate this quarterback, and if he's not the one, to put a little security blanket in place for whoever is his replacement in the future.
But I think, so those are good points. I think that one of the ways that you can help Goff is to keep him protected. Yep. Right? And to make him comfortable in the pocket, to make it so, things aren't so chaotic for him. And, I understand the mentality that the Lions' offensive line's in a good place right now. But I think the left side of their line is, with the center, mm-hmm. that looks good going forward. But who's right guard, who's right tackle? And do we know right now? I don't know. I mean, do we think Vaitai is going to play right tackle for them and is going to be a stabilizing player for them? No. And I'm not sure that he's going to play right guard for them. Right. So there's some of that. There's some unknown there. But if you're telling me that Penei Sewell at 20 years old is going to play right tackle for them for whatever years, and then he's going to eventually move over to the left side when Taylor Decker moves on in his career, I think having a player who's going to play for you for a long time is a smart investment. Now, it's not a sexy pick. Yeah. It's kind of boring. Unless you love football built from the trenches like that. But I do think that, I think that if you're putting Penei Sewell as the right tackle, and you've got Frank Ragnow and Jonah Jackson, Taylor Decker, and you can find somebody to play guard for you, which is easily, I'm not saying at a high level, but sure. You can find replacement level guards. That is a very good offensive line. Yep. And you are giving Jared Goff a shot, even though you're not really giving him weapons in round 1, but remember, you can find a good receiver in round 2.
Kadarius Toney, as we talked about earlier, is a great early second round.
There's a few of them. Elijah Moore would be great.
Yep.
Elijah Moore would be he's a perfect prototype for what Holmes has done. Yes. In the really good route runner, yards after catch. Goff is one of those guys who needs to trust his receivers. Mm-hmm. And I think, giving him help up front is it's smart.
Yep. And that's why it's still there. That's exactly why I wanted you to make that argument, though, because it's not a sexy pick. And I think a lot of people are going to be taken aback if we go with an offensive line. And
I'm not crazy about it. I rate Slater higher than I rate Sewell. I rate Elijah Vera Tucker higher than I rate either of them.
Right.
But he is a guard, and you cannot take a guard in the top 10. The only devil's
Slater instead of Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
The point is that
right. Yeah. Exactly.
Something.
Yeah.
Yep.
The premise stands up. Yeah.
If you get one of those two guys at right tackle, and we all know they're going to extend Frank Ragnow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You are going to have Decker, Jackson, Ragnow, and Sewell Slater through 2023, right? Yep. Like, that is some stability on the line. Now, if
Done.
You can find that right guard. That's the only missing piece. Jared Goff needs two things: an offensive line that can keep him upright, and wide receivers that can separate. By giving him a right tackle here, you are keeping him upright, and that's a huge. It goes a long way to evaluating Jared Goff.
There you go.
And isn't
let me bring up
Goff away from McVay? I'm really interested to see that because
we all are.
Yeah.
I think as time goes on, we're going to see that McVay is a little bit Patricia-like, where it's there's rigidity to that offensive scheme, and as long as we do what my scheme does, we're good. Okay, but teams have figured out your scheme. We need to we need to change some things, and I'm not sure that he helped much there. So I think
disagree with that at all.
I'm 100% on board with that, Scott. And I think that's the one thing as a Lions fan that gives me the most hope for Jared Goff, because I don't know that we've seen everything that Jared Goff can do. We may have. We'll find out. This is going to be a crazy year. But I think you're right about McVay, and it'll be interesting to see Matthew Stafford in McVay's system this year. It's going to be a great year to watch football. I know that. And even as just a Lions fan, just the change in coaching, these games are going to be so much more fun. Oh, God, this is going to be a great year. All right, we landed on Sewell.
Well, let me bring something up here. Is there any thought about a defensive player not named Micah Parsons? A guy like Kwity Paye, a guy like Patrick Surtain, a guy like Jalen Phillips. That's probably about the only ones you would really consider there.
I think it's too early for either of the edge guys. And I don't think you can double dip at corner, especially when it takes so long to develop. We saw that with the Kuda last year, and you've got a young guy in Owarie. I don't know if you can add a third one. Look, if your plan was to take Surtain and to use him on the outside, and then when you want to go into a nickel and you bring Owarie on the outside, and then now Surtain becomes like a hang safety, now I'm interested. Now, if you're talking about turning him into like one of those like hybrid like safety nickel corners, that are like huge and like that have kind of started to take over secondaries, I'm interested. I just don't know if he can do that, and I'm not sure you can quite double dip there. Not in the top 10 twice.
And Kwity Paye for me is I think he's more of a project, and the nice thing about where the Lions are is they do have time.
Mm-hmm.
They've got some time to develop these guys, but I think he's more project than a lot of people are looking at with him. I do not think he would come in right away and be super productive as an edge player for them. A couple of years from now might be a different story, but I'm not sure that, he's a developmental player.
I think Kwity comes off the bench if you draft him, and you can't have that with your 7.
Agreed with that.
Yep.
Totally.
Definitely come off the bench. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So last question, because it's the Lions, just going to make sure we give it the full treatment. Any options here for the trade? Does anybody want to come up to 7 for Trey Lance, for something else?
So we have Trey Lance and Mac Jones still on the board.
Yeah.
And I think all the teams we mentioned earlier are in play.
Yeah. New England, Chicago, Denver. Although the impetus here would be to get in front of Denver and Carolina. And Carolina could conceivably still take a quarterback. I kind of doubt it, but they could. I think Brad Holmes could market that. Like, hey, they got Darnold. Darnold's no safe bet, and Teddy's gone. I don't even know who. I honestly don't know who their backup is in Carolina right now. So they might have what's his name? One of the Kyles who wasn't very good from a couple of years ago. The Texas A&M version.
Thinking Kyle Allen, right?
Yeah.
He's in Washington. I don't know who the backup is either.
Oh, that's right. He went with Rivera.
Yeah.
But he's behind Taylor Heineke there now too.
Yes.
And who else? They got somebody else now too.
It's magic, baby.
Thank you. Yes. I can't keep track, man. There's too many quarterbacks moving around.
Isn't it PJ Walker? Isn't that the guy who played against us, right?
That's right. The little guy from Temple, and I like him, but he's tiny.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about, I think Denver could make it. I think Denver could come up to 7 if, and it wouldn't cost them much, right?
Give us your third round pick. Yeah. Move up 2 spots.
You'd be securing it. You wouldn't have to worry about somebody jumping in front of you with Carolina.
Right.
So that's a natural place. I think Dallas, if they fell in love with a corner, could be this situation.
Right. Do they have to have Surtain, or do they have to have J.C. Horn?
Or Micah
One or the other? Or Parsons.
Micah Parsons is a perfect player for Dallas.
Their linebackers are worse than Detroit's. No question. And they are significantly higher profile, too.
And they understand that they need more playmaking from that position.
Yeah.
So
if you think Jared Davis was bad, go watch Jaylen Smith in Dallas's defense, and you'll think, oh, my God, why did we not max out Jared Davis? Because that guy cannot play football.
Isn't Micah Parsons like Jaylen Smith? I mean, like that's kind of my comp for him, right? In a lot, if you play him off the ball, Mike, I think he's similar to that.
One of the worries that you have with a guy who is a freak athlete and needs to be a freak athlete to be what he is if they get hurt, do they fully recover, A, and B, do they worry about getting hurt again, which is clearly what's happened with Jaylen Smith, because he is not aggressive whatsoever anymore. And when he was at Notre Dame before that injury happened, before Taylor Decker tore his knee up, not Decker's fault, but he was a different dude. He was a different dude. He really was. He was better there than Parsons was at Penn State.
Yeah. But I think that there's
and now he's not.
We love Jaylen Smith for what he was as a player, and Micah Parsons is right there with him. I mean, is Dallas moving up a few spots to take a linebacker? I doubt it. But
no, because Denver. Look at their. We'll get to 9. Yeah, we'll save that. Yeah. All right. So we're on Sewell here, right?
We're holding tight. Yeah. No trade and Penei Sewell. All right. The Lions have picked. For those of you who need your CBD, go ahead and go get that now. All right, we'll move on now to Carolina.
Not my favorite pick, but it is what it is.
All right, I'm just going to do a quick housekeeping thing here. We're at 8, and we've been at this for a little over an hour. We'll probably talk a little less about the rest of the guys as we go forward, just because I want to be done before 3 a.m. So let's get in Carolina at 8. We'll start with you, Scott. Who do you think they're grabbing?
So I would think that they would need O-line. I think corners in play here. They lost Curtis Samuel. I think wide receiver is intriguing here. Tight end, maybe. Secondary help kind of thing. But I think Rashawn Slater, if Penei Sewell goes 7, Rashawn Slater seems to make some sense to me at 8. I mean, is Devonta Smith a player they'd be looking at? Maybe.
Maybe.
Patrick Surtain fits. So those are the 3 guys I'd be looking at. I think that's kind of where I would start. Pare it down from there.
Yep. All right, Erik.
Yeah, I think corner makes some sense here. I'm not so sure. I mean, look, if you're projecting that Sewell or that Slater is going to play on the right side and supplant Greg Little, then I'm fine. I think that makes a lot of sense. Because they just franchised Moton, right?
Taylor Moton is a very good player too.
Yeah, and he's going to hold down that right side. I don't see him switching to the left. I think corner makes sense here. This is why I think we had to just talk about the fact that Dallas might be willing to trade up. What is because putting Surtain on the field here with them makes some sense. I would lean towards him.
Okay, Riz, how you feeling? Surtain?
I think so. Greg Little was a 2nd-round pick in 2019. He's not awful.
No,
their offensive line as a whole is not terrible. They've spent some money on it and spent some resources on it. So I think they did not adequately replace James Bradbury when he left, and I think that's a hole for them in the division they're in. You're adding Kyle Pitts in that division now. You've got who knows what's going on with New Orleans, but I mean you got Michael Thomas in that division. Surtain is a big enough guy that he can handle the big physical receivers like that, or Julio Jones. Everything that Tampa throws at you, you cannot have enough defensive backs there. So I kind of like Surtain there, and I will tell you this: most people that I've talked to grade Surtain higher than they graded Okudah a year ago, and Okudah went 3. Now, I know Erik expects a lot more out of Okudah this year, and I assume Scott does, and y'all know I do. I think we're going to see a much different Jeff Okudah this year. But if you're getting the top end Okudah and you can get that at 8, that's pretty good.
Yeah. All right, so we will put Patrick Surtain in for Carolina at number 8. Loretto, thank you for the super chat. Good question. This is probably something for you guys for the future as you do your work on the beat with your credentials. Next time, maybe Rod Wood shows up for some questions. Key question: what have they done about upgrades on Ford Field? There hasn't been a press release or anything really released about that, but with a year off, it's given them an opportunity maybe to invest in infrastructure a little bit. A year without the crowds. It would be really nice to hear what, if anything, that they've done to improve the fan experience. Not to say it was bad, but just what they've done to improve the experience overall. All right,
we're allowed to have fans back.
Oh, we will. We will.
They took down that dagger sign. Sign.
Huge improvement. Huge improvement.
I can hear Jim Costa yelling "Dagger time" in my head over and over again. Love you, Jim.
All right, number 9, we've got Denver up, and let's start with you, Riz. What is Denver going to do?
They are in a perfect spot to get a developmental quarterback like Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Perfect spot for them. Let Drew Lock play it out. Either he wins it, and he is.
What about Mac Jones?
I would take. Well, I don't know there.
I view him as like the anti-Drew Lock kind of thing.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And they have weapons for days there.
They do, and Jerry Jeudy did not have a great rookie year, or certainly not a great start to his rookie year. He got better as the year went on. I believe he led the NFL in drops, and I don't think that's going to repeat itself either. They do have weapons. They have something of an offensive line, enough that they could get by. All the talk about
that Denver was loaded with weapons, and I'd forgotten about Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
But you have Tim Patrick, you have Sutton, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have KJ Hamler, you have Noah Fant.
Yeah.
Can we get one? Two?
Put a capable quarterback there, and it's good. It looks good.
And it feels like
Mac Jones is the kind of guy, he can keep the trains on time for that sort of offense.
Exactly.
The question is, do you want it now? Do you think you're ready to compete in that division now? Or do you think you give Locke another year, you let Lance learn, get him into the system, you see if your head coach can be a coach or not, because I think the jury is very much out on Vic Fangio at this point. Do you start then where you've got the new quarterback in already, and as a selling point to a potential coach, hey, look, we can get rid of this guy, and you've got Lance here already, ready to roll now.
So this is like the upside versus ceiling discussion.
Right. And you've just got a new GM in George Payton, who comes from an organization in Minnesota where having an acceptable quarterback was apparently okay.
How much do you trust Pat Shurmur to develop Trey Lance? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Because I can see, right, exactly. I can see, look, we've all seen it where quarterbacks that need to sit get pushed on the field early, and then they don't develop, and then their confidence gets shots, and then they bust.
Yep.
I can see them taking Lance, keeping Locke as a starter, him struggling, and then forcing Lance in, and now you've busted both of their careers.
Oh, let's see what we've got here.
I mean, honestly, I could see that play out, and then that whole thing gets blown up. Whereas if you take Mac Jones, it's safer, it's solid, like you said with Peyton. Look, Mac Jones is Kirk Cousins, right, in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
And so Mac Jones does make some sense here for Denver.
And why couldn't Mac Jones sit as long as, until the point when they say, we were lying about the idea of having a quarterback sit, right? Because we talk about Trey Lance as someone who's going to do that, but we know he's not.
They do.
Slightly different leagues.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Yeah. And Lance, I would encourage, so I'll go off on Trey Lance for a quick second here. Everybody talks about his great games, and then they talk about the bad game last year. The first game I watched of Trey Lance was the Illinois State playoff game in the FCS playoffs 2 years ago, where they scored 9 points against a defense that blitzed the hell out of him and forced him to throw the ball. They did not let him run. They didn't have one spy. They had 2 spies, and they blitzed him. And they're like, hey, receivers beat us, and they didn't, and he couldn't do a thing. So I think that they're going to realize that, and you might have talked me into Mac Jones here, Erik.
Yeah. All right, Bischoff, Scott, you there?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mac Jones makes some sense if you're looking, to get more
the,
safe.
the only position they wouldn't do is if you want to give Vic Fangio his druthers, and he would take Micah Parsons. And I think he would take Micah Parsons. This is the guy who took Roquan Smith in the first round.
Yeah.
That worked out pretty well for Chicago.
And I think that makes sense too. But then, so you can see how this is such a difficult decision for them.
Yeah.
Do you have a capable player in Drew Lock? Yeah, but he's volatile. Do you want to calm that situation down? Do you want to upgrade the middle of your defense? It's a tough call. It really is. I think anytime you can retool with a quarterback, if you need a quarterback, that makes sense. But
I'm terrified of the bust rate. You have the bust rate normally, and then in this year, without the real scouting time, without the game time, with all the COVID restrictions, it just really, I would be extremely worried if I was a scouting department trying to put together my picks this year.
And it's not just quarterbacks this year. There's going to be a significant bust rate at every position.
Yep.
That's why I think there's so many quarterbacks going early.
Yeah, that may be.
Because it's volatile anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I think Mac Jones makes the most sense here.
All right. We landed on Mac Jones. Then we go number 10, Dallas. We'll start with Riz. What do you got for Dallas here at number 10 overall?
Surtain's gone. There's a lot of smoke about J.C. Horn. There's a lot of talk about Micah Parsons. I think that's their two choices. In theory, they do need offensive line help, but with Sewell gone, I mean, maybe you go Slater's here. But
on the board, yeah.
He is. I do think it's going to be defense. Jera has talked too much about their defense needing help. And yeah, I don't know, man. I lean Horn here, but some of that is only because I've seen that in a lot of mock drafts where Surtain is off the board already. But man, Parsons fits that defense, and again, their linebackers are wretched.
Do you think they would be able to hold themselves back from making that pick? Oh. I don't know that they would.
No, no, I don't.
What do you think?
No, look, Jerry Jones likes flash, right? And I don't think there's a guy outside of Pitts that has more flash right now than Parsons. And I could see Jones saying, this is my defender that I love, this is my offensive player that I love, and I want one of those two guys. And so, yeah, I don't know if Jones could hold back. I think he would explode at the opportunity to get a freak athlete. Yeah. So,
yeah, I hope he's on this yacht with the dryers in the background again.
I think they should get Horn, but I don't think they will.
Dallas fans will tell you they don't always get what they should get. They know that very well. So we're going Parsons?
Yeah.
I think Parsons makes sense.
Right.
I mean, I think they need corner much more than they need linebacker. But,
they're crazy.
Okay.
Go ahead, Erik.
I think this is a good spot for Horn too. Like he's a top 15 player, right? He should probably go in this range.
He's a swagger guy too.
Yes.
Yeah. And having a dad, Joe in the league, like it's
some swagger too.
Interesting. They just got in free agency. They went and they got Keanu O'Neal, who they're saying that he might play some linebacker, right?
Yeah.
Are they overloading themselves? Like, do they have too many linebackers? Like, even though they're not good, I don't know. I think your initial gut is right that Horn should be the pick.
He should be.
I just don't trust Jerry.
So it's funny.
I think for what we're trying to do, I think it makes more sense for Horn to be the pick here, based on what he is as a player and his readiness to go soon.
Yeah.
And their holes. I think Keanu O'Neal might be able to push off the linebacker thing just a little bit.
But do you depend on a guy who's always hurt? He's always hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have Jaron Kearse too for that same kind of hybrid role, in my opinion. I think they've kind of doubled down on that.
And hey, he Kearse was not bad here. I think Lions fans gave him a bit too hard of a rep. I thought he played okay.
Yeah, yep. Really quick, I just want to hit to Eric's point about not trusting Jerry. Nick the Greek in the chat says Jerry Jones has a super high bust rate for an octogenarian. I think at any age he has a pretty good bust rate. But okay, so where are we? Are we still at Parsons, or are we starting to question our because remember, we've got our Jerry Jones, we got our 10-gallon hat on. Are we thinking that it's we're outthinking ourselves, or are we going?
I think we should go Parsons here.
I'm going to say Horn, and then I'm going to let Scott just break the tiebreaker.
Well, okay, so I just want to facilitate an easy next pick, and I'm going to say Horn here.
Okay.
And the Giants are going to take Micah Parsons, and we can just move on. Because the dinosaur mentality that is there. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so, and Joe Judge is a off the Belichick tree as well. And he's the coach in New York. So I'm good with that.
Okay, Horn and Parsons. Boom, 10-11. That's the fastest two I think we're ever going to get done. Moving on to number 12. I heard you start laughing, Erik. I was like, oh no, he's protesting. All right, 12, Philadelphia from the 49ers. What do we got here? We'll start with you, Scott. Why don't you kick us off?
I would think that Devonta Smith would be in play here. Yeah. I also think Rashawn Slater is in play here, and those are the two I would be flipping back and forth.
All right.
I'm with you on Smith. They just lost to Sean Jackson. That's probably the most natural comparable skill set to what Smith offers you. So this is going to be in every mock draft. It's in my final mock. I started the final mock already. It's 10 days out. I have 4 picks written in. 12, Devonta Smith is one of them.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, I don't think Travis Fulgham can hold him off either.
Oh, wow. Making the bold prediction, Erik.
Do they want Jalen Hurts to work is a better question.
Yes, and if they do, they need to give him some. I mean, I just took Jalen Reagor. You have Dallas Goedert. You know, you need to continue to give weapons.
So Smith is a senior, right?
Yeah.
So that means he was at Bama the same time Hurts was.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
Another connection. If since we want to pair all these receivers with former quarterbacks.
Get your wall with the red yarn, connecting all the stuff. There you go. All right, we'll move on then. We got Devonta Smith going to Philadelphia. Los Angeles Chargers. I have that written down because I still messed that one up. LA Chargers. They're up here with lucky number 13. Erik, what do you think? What do you think these guys are doing here?
Boy, I think the best player is going to be Slater, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember if they actually have a need there. I think they do, right? They have a need on the line.
They always have a need on the line.
It seems like it. Their right tackle is Bulaga. Their right tackle is Bulaga, but their left tackle is Trey Pipkins. So
their starting left guard is Ode Ibushi, FYI.
Oh gosh.
Their swing tackle is Storm Norton.
Right. So they need offensive line help.
Definitely going cornerback.
That's a real depth chart, ladies and gentlemen.
Holy cow.
That's Lions practice squad 2018 right there. Oh my God.
I mean, I wonder if they would be interested in getting Jalen Phillips here or Kwity Paye to go opposite Bosa, but Slater's the best player, and it's a need.
Yeah.
So
you got to protect Herbert.
Yeah.
Same thing we talked about with Joe Burrow. You've got to protect Justin Herbert. And if you watched Herbert at Oregon, you'd know that even with a great offensive line, he can still be a little skittish. He was not that last year. That's why he was awesome. Let's hope that continues. So yeah, I think Slater because again, Slater can play tackle. He can also play guard. I don't think he'd have any issue playing guard. Other than he's not a guy who's going to punch you in the mouth and let you know it, but he's going to be a capable guard.
I would worry about him just with how quick and how physical things are, getting his face crossed kind of stuff.
Inside.
I think there's any issues with him playing tackle. I think that's the whole arm length footwork discussion.
Yeah,
he's fine.
Yeah, I think his footwork actually helps alleviate some of those concerns about the arm length, right? Like his ability to slide laterally, and then his hands are so quick. He wants to get to that defender before the defender gets to him, and it catches the defender off guard. He did that to Chase Young, that game in 2019. He stepped into Chase Young before Chase Young got that first step out, and that's
the point about him playing guard, though, is that he's much better against speed.
I think he's better on the outside. Yes. In my opinion, I would play him at tackle. Look, Taylor Decker's arms are 33 and a quarter and 3/4. And so we're talking about 3/4 of an inch, and you make that up in footwork. So I would have no issues playing him at left tackle and locking down the Chargers' left side.
Yes. Let's do it.
All right, there we go. Rashawn Slater. Moving on to number 14, the Vikings of Minnesota. Erik, I'm going to put you on again because I think I skipped you one round here. What are you thinking here?
Well, actually, I haven't even looked at the Vikings depth chart. If someone else wants to go ahead.
Right,
let me pull their depth chart up just so I can double check where I'm at.
I think there's offensive line help needs there.
They do have offensive line needs. They're good at center, and they might be good. They might be good at guard, but at tackle again, Brian O'Neill is a capable starting right tackle. They don't have a left tackle.
Christian Darrisaw.
Oh,
I do not love his game, but
he's gonna get some love. Emery Hunt was on this show last week and had him as the best tackle in this draft.
Yeah.
So, and we all know and love Emery. We know that he knows what he's talking about on that. I disagree with him on that too, but I see the traits there. I saw the jump.
Offense, there's just not a lot of true pass sets to see out of Virginia Tech, so it's tough. And I think there's footwork issues. I
think he got a lot better in 2020 than he did in 2019 in terms of his play-to-play consistency. If you watch them in 2019, they lost a bad game. I forget who it was, either Old Dominion or Liberty, and he was just like not interested in playing. You could tell he didn't want to be there, and there wasn't a single snap of that in 2020. And I think that the maturity there is something that you have to look at. Is okay, this guy, either he bottomed out or the coaching finally got to him and he got it. And that light bulb is it might not be flipped on yet, but it's at least warm. And yeah. I think that's an attractive place to be if you're a Vikings team that has a quarterback who's average, and you're okay with that. And you have weapons.
Well,
Their defense
is a great athlete. He will help Dalvin Cook at the second level.
Definitely.
The kick slide and so playing left tackle, your first move needs to be with your right foot, and you need to really establish some lateral and vertical depth with that first move.
Yeah.
And there are times, the majority of it, where he really doesn't do much with that first step. So his left foot just kind of sets down, and now he's chasing everything. And I just think there needs to be some refinement in his kick slide. But if you can get that, he's a great athlete for his size. It's just, I think he will help the running game. He is really good in space. I mean, if we think that's the need, like I think
he is a Kubiak type tackle, and their offensive coordinator is not Gary anymore; it's his son Clint. So safe to say they're not going to change too much.
I tell you, the position that would scare me the most as a Lions fan would be if they went edge here, because like if they went Jalen Phillips or Quiddy, and then put him on the opposite side of Hunter, I think that would really help them a lot because they got really stiff in the middle. They're not going to generate a lot of pass rush with the guys that they have in the middle, adding Tomlinson and having Watts as their nose, right? I could see them really look, I look at Phillips and I see TJ Watt. And that's I would hate to see that twice a year. So yeah. I could also see Quiddy, who can line up on that side as well. I could think either of those guys playing out in the Vikings scheme because there's not really anybody else in front of them.
I'll say with our earlier pick of Penei Sewell, though, we're just fine. We have nothing to worry about.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense. It's either offensive tackle or edge, and it's just where are they prioritizing their needs? Jeff,
who's their quarterback? Jeff, who's their quarterback?
Kirk Cousins. I'm sitting about 5 minutes from where he grew up.
I know. They need. I'm just going to say they need to protect him. Their strength is their defense. I think their offense has been what's been lacking.
I think
him a little bit of time.
They can scheme with Mike Zimmer as their defensive coach more than they can scheme with what they need on offense. Yeah. And Darisaw does make sense here, absolutely. So I would probably lean there. I do think he's going to come off earlier than most fans. I'm sure there are people that are listening to this now. Who's this Darisaw dude? Never heard of him. But Virginia Tech turned out Dwayne Brown in a very similar situation about a decade ago, where he was a surprise first-round pick by the Houston Texans. It was 2008, I want to say. I think it was 27th overall, and fans were like, "Who? They don't throw the ball. Michael Vick isn't there anymore. And he wound up being great. And he's Seattle's best offensive tackle now. So he wasn't that athletic, but I think Darisaw is the way to go here.
All right, we're gonna put a pin in Darisaw and move on to number 15, the New England Patriots, rising from the ashes like a phoenix. We'll see.
My God, Trey Lance is still on the board.
Yep, and it's him. Right? It has to be, right?
Yeah.
Easy.
And that happens, and then all of a sudden the rest of the league goes, how did we let this happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's
that you pair him with Cam.
Right.
Like it's just interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Cam is the best mentor in the world.
No.
But if Trey can learn by example and not by like, hey, show me this, there's not a much better mentor. Because I'm still a believer in Cam. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. I think he was injured more than was let on. I also think he was hurt by their lack of weapons more than anybody would ever know, because that team, and now that Edelman's gone, their wide receiving core is probably worse than Detroit's at this point. So give them Lance now and give them a buttload of wide receivers later.
That is a large load. All right, Trey Lance to New England. We'll move on to number 16. We have Arizona. Scott, why don't you take us away to Arizona and their pick?
Corner, I think, is the most reasonable way to look at Caleb Farley. I know there's some injury stuff there. I think Caleb Farley would be discussed along with Surtain, right in the Surtain Horn mold, if it weren't for injuries. But I don't know how much exposure you guys have to Greg Newsome. I think Greg Newsome might be a wild card here. He moves so smooth and fluid that I think it's corner. And if it's me, I'm taking Newsome here. I don't want to deal with the injuries with Farley, the back stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's alarming. I know it's probably a little bit off the board, but I'm taking Greg Newsome.
I like it. So Caleb Farley has had 2 back surgeries, and he's 21 years old. Just turned 21. I'm not touching that, and I don't think the NFL is touching that. I know that he cleared in Indy last week at their medical exam. Imagine you're a team doctor and you sign off on that. Sorry, yeah. I don't see that happening. I think there's a fair chance he winds up being this year's Maurice Hurst and falls way, way, way down. I don't even think he's a day 2 pick. I think he's fallen out just based on that. Newsome, if he had better durability, I wouldn't have any question that he would be the pick here. This guy missed at least 3 games in all 3 of his college seasons. He had 1 interception. He dropped 4 or 5 of them. So he's not a perfect guy, but in terms of like coverage, he's so good. Yeah. Scott, he's so good.
I know. It's fun to watch him. It's just the start-stop and the mirror stuff, the lateral agility.
He's got incredible feet. He's got incredible instincts. He's very quick to react. He tested better than expected at their pro day. There's a lot to like about Greg Newsome.
He's my number 3 cornerback. What do you got, Erik? What do you think?
I'm wondering how much they're in love with Jordan Hicks. And I'm wondering if they would want to pair Xavier Collins with Isaiah Simmons.
Oh my God.
Because
that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
They do need corner. Don't get me wrong. They're on a 1-year hit with Malcolm Butler and Alfred just coming off an injury season, so you don't know what you've gotten him. But man, I really like. I mean, they could. I don't think they're going to take JOK here and have a same guy as Isaiah Simmons here.
Right.
But
Huda Baker plays that role too.
Right. You can't have 3 of them on the field. But I am tempted at Collins. I think he's a guy who this is a range where he could go, even though he's being projected a little lower. Yeah, he's a guy I like. I think there are teams that are going to have him ahead of Micah Parsons on their board. So that's the only wild card I'd throw in there. Do you like Collins more than you like one of the corners?
And I think Collins can play as your stand-up edge. Covering the Browns, I often compare him to Olivier Vernon in terms of how he would fit in Cleveland. I think he would start in that spot as the stand-up edge rusher opposite a good edge rusher on the other side. In Cleveland, it's Myles Garrett. In Arizona, you have Chandler Jones there. I think, I don't know that they've learned it. They have taken 2 guys that are sort of the positionless, like, athletes, Hassan Reddick, and they ruined him, and Isaiah Simmons, and they're on their way to ruining him because they don't play him in one spot. Find one spot for Zaven Collins to play on this defense, and I love it. But I'm not sure that they're smart enough to do that.
But I think it makes
because they haven't done it in the past.
I think it makes sense, and Erik, I think it's a great thought. It really is.
All right, I'm good with Collins there because I agree. I think he will be generally higher rated than what Newsome is, and part of that is the injury knock on Newsome. They're both really good players here.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm good with Zaven Collins.
All right.
The Browns picker in me at 26 is a little sad.
Sorry.
There's a lot of Browns picker in you. All right, let's move on to number 18 overall.
Not being a fan, I am oddly attached to them.
We got Miami up again. Can't get rid of these guys. It's like a bad case of athlete's
No, we're
foot.
17, right?
We got Las Vegas.
Yeah, Raiders.
Oh, sorry.
Raiders.
Yep. Nope. You know what? I made a mistake. I put in you guys are right. I put in Newsome and moved on, and then also put in Collins in Vegas. We're at number 17. We're in Las Vegas.
They could use Newsome.
What do you got, Erik, for Vegas?
I think there are 2 logical players knowing what Las Vegas is, and it's Kwity Paye and Owusu Koromoa from Notre Dame. Those guys, Mayok's going to love those guys. I mean, they're blue chippers. Pick one.
I think this is the spot when we start talking about Vera Tucker as well. They just shed almost their entire offensive line, and Vera Tucker is a extremely talented player who could lock down a spot for them. I don't care where it is. So I think Vera Tucker, if you're looking offensive line, it makes some sense here.
He would be their starting right tackle right away. He's better than Denzel Good. They don't need a left tackle. They have Colton Miller there, who was considered a reach at right around this range. Was that 3 years ago, 2018? Yeah. And he's worked out. He started really, really bad. He's become, I would say, better than capable. I think he's a pretty good player now. If he had the question, is
into his body.
Yeah, he had the question: is he too tall? Is he too long? You have the opposite thing with Vera Tucker, who is 30? Is it 32 and a quarter arms on him? Something like that. He's 6'3".
Yeah.
For me, he
32 and an eighth. Yeah.
Yeah, he had the most consistent, best offensive line tape of any person in this draft at any of the positions. He was so good at left tackle for USC. He was even better the year before when he played guard at USC. He's a blue chip prospect, but I don't know, man. They have not shown a hesitancy to take offensive line in the first round, but man, they need a pass rush. Cleveland Farrell is their best pass rusher.
Who they took very high.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they did.
about 80 picks too high.
Blue chip school.
So was it Paye or Vera Tucker? I think that's your 2 options, right?
I think they would covet Paye.
Nope.
Just
I can see that, and because of his athleticism and the fact that he can play a lot of different spots in your defensive line. He can play your 3 if you want him to. He can play 4. He can play 5. He can play 7 if you need him to. with all that he is. And the other thing is, he's a great human being, and that's something that I think they're turning to try to focus on. I know they have Richie Incognito on the roster, but it seems like they're making a concerted push to get
the law of averages.
They're trying to get away from the Al Davis outlaws. Like, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Yeah. They've sort of gone away from that. The just win baby era.
I completely forgot about this, but they signed Yannick Ngakoue. I don't know if that helps alter our decision at all. Having Ngakoue, I forgot completely about him until I looked at their depth chart. Is that not Quiddy out, or is it? I think you still.
He wasn't good in either place he was at last year.
I don't know that it knocks him out. I think
okay.
Michigan had Pay up at over 280 pounds, and he still looked freaky athletic, and he's down to around 260 pounds.
Yeah,
I think you can stand him up. I think you can rip him off the edge. Can he kick inside in your like your NASCAR type packages kind of thing? I think he can.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I mean, there are ways to get him on the field. I just think that he's, I don't know what Ngakoue's contract is. Is it a 1-year deal?
I don't know. I just happened to look at the depth chart.
I think
I assume they all are.
Long-term developmental player, so not expecting a ton from him right away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just somebody, a player that you're gonna develop into something.
Yeah,
is more with him.
What did they do for him?
All right, I think we're down with Quiddy Pay. I know Riz is on a mission now to find out how long that Ngakoue contract is.
I'm trying to find a site that doesn't have an instant pop-up video ad, and I'm not having luck. Damn it!
All right, we'll go Quiddy Pay, and we'll go back to Miami.
We'll go to Quiddy Pay.
Remember, we picked Jaylen Waddle earlier, number 6 overall. So here we are in Miami with our fresh look at Waddle
and Zaven Collins is off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The not Dolphins fan of me doesn't like that because he'd be great here.
Is D-line a consideration here? Interior?
You think they could go Barmore?
Yeah.
I think it's a little early for him personally. I don't know what Miami would be thinking if they would be willing to go that high on him. I wonder if they envision a Jalen Phillips being able to play the Kyle Van Noy role.
What about Ojulari?
Yeah, there you go. Even better. Like he can for sure play the Kyle Van Noy role.
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ojulari makes a ton of sense here because I mean their jack linebacker right now is Andrew Van Ginkel out of Wisconsin, right?
Wisconsin.
Yeah. So it's an instant upgrade. So I do like Ojulari here. That makes a lot of sense.
Azeez Ojulari. All right.
Yeah. By the way, Yannick Ngakoue, 2 years. 2 years, $26 million. So he's there for a couple of years.
Thanks for sitting through that video ad. All right, number 19, Washington. We have the Washington football team, soon to be named something else, but we can call them whatever we want.
I hope they stay as the football team, or they become the Griffins, just because the Grand Rapidian in me would like to see another team be the Griffins, and it's a sweet logo.
All right, let's go to Erik here really quick. We're looking at Washington at 19. Desperate to get RG3 back on the field, but it's not going to happen. So what are they going to do here at 19?
I could see Vera Tucker going here and playing guard.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes sense. He's going to be a good value for them. I don't think they're really going to go back to defensive line again. I don't.
Oh, come on.
They signed Kendall Fuller and William Jackson, right? So they got a couple of corners.
That's a good defense. There's one hole in their defense.
Yeah.
John Bostic is their best linebacker right now.
Right. Again, I think they would have loved a linebacker here too, but I don't think is JOK that guy. I don't think.
I don't know because they have Landon Collins who can do that.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Jeez.
God, I'm looking at their defensive depth chart. This is like a really, really good defense.
Yeah, they do need linebacker help. That's
again, they're another team. They only ever play 2. Right. And they have kind of 1.
Kalike Hudson is one of their guys.
Davis? I think it's early.
Say that again?
For Jamin Davis?
Is it, I think it's way too early for him there.
Yeah, I do too.
I think we in the media, the draft media, and I'm guilty of this as well, have overhyped his potential draft slot.
Jamin Davis?
Yeah.
1 year of production?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
See you,
he was great though. He was great at Kentucky in 2020. But 2019 he couldn't even get on the field on Kentucky.
But I mean, outside of, I think Vera Tucker is probably the way they would go. Value.
I think, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and the way that their offense did fall off when Brandon Sheriff got hurt last year, so I can see them, needing help there.
Yeah, maybe they don't have to franchise them every year as well. Yeah. They could.
Oh, by the way, their swing tackle is Cornelius Lucas.
Corny.
No way.
Their backup center is Bo Benchowel.
Oh, jeez.
Bench Whizzle.
They might need some offensive line help.
All right.
I think we're going Vera Tucker.
Yeah. Elijah Vera Tucker coming in. All right, number 20, every Lions fan's favorite second team, the Chicago Bears coming in. Let's go, Scott. What do you got for the Bears? What are they going to be looking for?
Bears.
Number 20.
Obviously, they need quarterback, but there's nobody available here.
Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask,
Davis Mills. I mean, they're all such
Jamie
developmental
guys.
My
number 6 quarterback is Shane Buechele. That tells you where we're at.
Yeah. I think wide receiver is probably the most likely thing to happen. But I don't. So Rashad Bateman to me is super interesting at this point in the draft because if you look at his 2019 film, he's a totally different player than he was in 2020. COVID was a lot of that. He struggled to overcome it, and there was an offensive scheme change, and it just didn't look like the same guy. But Bateman's 2019 film would scare me as a Lions fan. I would not want him in the NFC North at all.
Yeah.
So it's a question of can he get that back? Would they value a different, another receiver? Would they value, a player like Elijah Moore, like we mentioned, or somebody like that, somebody a little bit more complimentary to Allen Robinson? Not that he's in there long term, but I think Bateman might be a pretty scary weapon for them.
Yeah, I think the other guy that jumped out at me was Tevin Jenkins. They could use a right tackle. It might be a little early. I don't know. It's probably close enough when you're getting into the 20s. But Jenkins makes sense. I do like Bateman if they went receiver though. That would be really good for them.
I think Newsome makes some sense here too. Their cornerback group is getting older. They did sign Desmond Trufant. I think he's projected as their number 3 corner right now.
He might even start for them.
That's fraught with peril, as we know.
When you said Newsome, I wasn't thinking Greg for the first time. I was at Jamie because their quarterback needed so bad. But I was just like, wait, what?
No,
never mind.
So,
never mind. Okay,
I think Greg Newsome makes some sense there. They've had so many problems with corners that get hurt a lot. Yeah,
that does make sense.
Yeah,
but I think it's they need to get some offense going. They need to get things in the right direction there, and
you're on Bateman.
Bateman's a good receiver.
Mm-hmm.
He really is.
Yeah, they can't franchise Allen Robinson again, and he sure doesn't sound like he wants to be there. Mm-hmm. So they need to make plans for that.
And they're in a case where if they're whenever their bye is, if it's before the bye week and they're 2-4, you can absolutely see them selling Allen Robinson off.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are. Bateman, Robinson's not staying without a quarterback this year, and they're not in a position to get that quarterback. So,
Rashad, don't call me Patrick Bateman.
Rashad Bateman. All right, 21, Indianapolis Colts, who still miss Andrew Luck, but whatever. They're looking.
Hey, they got Carson Wentz now.
As I said, they still miss Andrew Luck. Riz,
I can't believe they traded for Carson.
I know. Who do you got at 21, Riz, for the Indianapolis Colts?
Oh, let me pull up my mock draft here because excuse me. So the Colts, they need offensive line in a bad way. They signed some Band-Aids, but they're
Costanzo retires.
Right.
So Erik mentions Tevin Jenkins.
Tevin Jenkins certainly makes some sense here.
Who plays left tackle?
Well, see, and that's the thing. I don't think he can play left tackle.
Correct. Yeah.
So do you address that? They need wide receiver help. Michael Pittman was a good start, but I think they need more than that. You can't have Zach Pascal be your number 2 wide receiver. T.Y. Hilton cannot play forever, and he fell off last year. So if you're going to give your new quarterback a chance to succeed, you got to do something there. But we just took Bateman. How do you feel about and they can use Nyheim Hines as sort of that gadget guy. So, and I think they still have Paris Campbell too. So
yeah, he was on IR all last year, and it's just an unknown as to what he is.
Yeah,
but
I mean, they could use pass rush up front. I mean, they're not bad, but they could be better. They could take Barmore.
Yeah,
they could take. Who's left at edge? I need to look at the board.
Jalen
Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I
don't
wonder
know what to do with Jalen Phillips. I really don't.
With the concussions?
Yeah, he medically retired from concussions.
Well, I think he didn't get cleared by UCLA, and I think that's why he was going to medically retire, right? He had 3 at UCLA, and then the doctors wouldn't clear him, and so he was going to retire, and then he decided he wanted to play again or something.
It sounds like
he played at Miami and was great and was on the field all year.
Sounds like Mayhew might want to bring him to Washington. Sorry. He had a proclivity for those kinds of guys.
The other player who's like a freak is Jason Owe. And it's just, he's such a projection. You just don't, I mean, there's a lot of production or pressure from him, but not a lot of sacks. And I think he's so raw as a player that I don't know. I mean, but there's more.
I know there's one team that thinks he needs to convert to tight end.
Well,
straight up. They told me he's a tight end on their board and not an edge.
Well, so I think really the question becomes, they traded for Carson Wentz for a reason. How are they going to help Carson Wentz succeed? Right. And I don't know what the right answer is, to be honest with you, because the best offensive lineman on the board is a right tackle, and they already have a right tackle.
Braden Smith's their best offense. He's good.
Right.
No, Quentin Nelson obviously is there too. But
I don't know if you're moving him over to left either. So
yeah,
I don't know. And so if offensive line is not there, is it receiver? Is it Terrence Marshall or Tony or one of the Moores like Elijah Moore? Like
Harris Marshall's intriguing. Nobody talks about him.
Yeah.
I don't totally understand it. Like he's a very viable guy. He is.
He's like Denzel Mims last year, right? Where he kind of had that one hit and like that 1 year of like really good production and like he's a guy who could be rising but isn't quite. He's got similar frame and everything, right? Too. So he interests me. I'm trying to think like how would you get a guy how would they fit in with what they have, with your Pascals and your
Pascal,
T.Y.
Hilton's older.
Yeah.
Michael Pittman is there.
Bigger.
Campbell and out of the slot. So I think you're the more bigger boundary receiver. It may be better for Wentz with what Wentz likes to do than the smaller slot types.
Wentz likes to get sacked, Scott. That's what he does.
Yeah, that's true.
I am not a Carson Wentz fan. I think this move is going to backfire on them horribly, but that's my opinion.
It could. It's just they need to give him weapons. They need to surround him with talent. He always seemed to like tight ends, and they have a bunch of tight ends there.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Doyle's a good one.
Huge need for a receiver here. I think it's more, can you pair somebody with the big trade they made last year when they gave up their first rounder for the D tackle from the 49ers, who I can't think of his name right now.
Forrest Buckner.
Yes.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. Do you pair a defender next to him, and is it Jalen Phillips? And is that a player they could find a way to medically clear, kind of thing, because he's a very productive player.
He's a really good player, and he's an exceptional athlete. He was the number one recruit in the country back in the day when he went to UCLA. There's a lot to like about him, but I personally can't do it at this point. But I get the allure, man. And if your doctor's fine with him, he's going to be the best player on your board here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unless we're thinking interior O-line is viable.
I don't know. I mean, and you look at the drop-off that's at edge here. I mean, you have Phillips now. Greg Rousseau, he's another guy that I think the draft media is much, much, much higher on than what the NFL is. Joe Tryon, Jason Owe, Joseph Osai. These are second-round talents, honestly.
Yeah. But I think Phillips is the premier player left on the board. It's just a matter of, does he, can you manage to clear him? And if not, then I think O-line is a need, but there's no natural left tackle unless you're looking at, I don't think they're reaching on a player like Liam Eichenberg or Sam Cosmi or anything like that. No. So it's almost like, you're kind of stuck there.
Yeah. Or would they take Greg Newsome?
Christian Barmore, a player? Greg Newsome, like you just said?
Yeah.
Erik, what do you think? Where would you go with it?
I'm kind of torn on Indy.
Can I just really quick on the concussion piece? Matt's coming in on the super chat. It's a UCLA team policy that after 3 concussions, you're required to medically retire.
So there you go.
Thank you very much, Matt. That's great info.
That is. Thank you.
Love the chat.
That makes me feel a little bit better about him.
Honestly, it does for me too. If they pair him and Buckner together, that's fun.
Yeah,
Buckner's really good.
Yeah.
So I
like him a ton. I think he's an incredible player. I think he's under the radar, and I think the concussions make him under the radar quite a bit. I mean, that's the tough part is we don't know the medicals. So if we're basing it just on talent, I like it.
And again, he played at Miami. They were fine with it, and he got through the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's Miami.
Miami's fine with a lot of things.
I think we are all, as Lions fans, we saw what happened with Javid Best, and I think we're more sensitive to that than a lot of other fan bases are too. So
yep.
So, I mean, if we can clear him medically, he would be the pick.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We've done that.
There you go.
We've got that down. 10 left. We're at 22 with Tennessee. Erik, let's go in. What do you think Tennessee is going to be looking for this year out of their first round draft pick?
I think it's the guys we've been talking about. It's either going to be like Greg Newsome or Tevin Jenkins, right? If they're not scared to take a first round right tackle again after what happened with their right tackle last year, then Tevin Jenkins makes a ton of sense. Right? Yeah.
I think it's Tevin Jenkins all day, and that's value.
Yeah. And look, yeah. If you're not scared to take a tackle, then take him. If you're scared to take a tackle again, then take
That's the third right tackle they will have taken in the first round in the last 5 years. They took Jack Conklin too. Yeah. He's now great in Cleveland. So,
right.
I mean, talk about overkill for a position. But I mean, right now their projected starting right tackle is old friend Kendall Lamb, who's actually a quality swing tackle, but he shouldn't be playing a lot.
There you go. All right, Tevin Jenkins. I think we've landed there. We'll move on. Number 23, the New York Jets are picking from the Seattle Seahawks. Riz, where's your head at on this one?
All right. I like to do this. I know Erik knows this. When you get a traded pick, you use the pick on the position of the guy that you traded away. They traded away Jamal Adams to get this pick. They're looking at a safety. With the top safety on the board for me is Trayvon Moehrig. They still need that spot. I like that. That's what I would do. I'm spiteful like that, though.
All right, what do you think, Erik?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think once you get into the 20s, a lot of these guys are going to blend together. And if you have a preference for that position, that's fine.
I think I would have gone pass rush here, but I think getting Carl Lawson helped them a lot. I think he's an underappreciated guy. Their defensive line is okay. They obviously need more weapons. Their wide receiver poor as well. if you had a wide receiver here that you liked, you could certainly convince me on that too.
Yeah,
they also have pick 34, so they can address that position there too.
Newsome might again. I mean, we're going to keep talking. We're keep throwing him in there because a lot of these teams need corners. They franchised Marcus May, right? So if Marcus is playing, who do you want to pair with Marcus, right? If you feel that strongly about Mooring over Newsome, I'm not going to get an argument out of me.
I don't know. I will have Newsome rated higher.
Slightly for me too.
Yeah.
But the safety, it's the value of being able to play a playmaking safety, right? Like that's
right.
Morig's he is a baller. He's a really fun player to watch. He's a good player. He's really solid in coverage. Like you're saying, you're replacing him with Jamal. You moved out Jamal Adams and different type, but I think you might get more coverage playmaking from Morig. Just to me, it's Newsome or Morig, and I'm not going to argue either way.
I'm going to throw one more guy in there. This is maybe where JOK could fit in. Do you think he can be your replacement? This would mean playing him more in safety than you would, and I'm not totally comfortable with that. And I don't think that they have a solid number 2 there that they can just lean on. But it's just a name that he should be going in this area, and so.
I agree.
But I'm comfortable.
All right, Trayvon Morig.
Yeah.
Okay. Sold.
Yeah,
all right, moving on to number 24, Pittsburgh. The Steelers. Been a little bit since they've had their things together. They've got an aging quarterback.
And they have a lot of problems, and they're going to solve them by taking a running back here.
Oh boy.
They're taking Najee Harris. This is another one of those that I have written down already.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. I'm interested in that.
That's
sounds like you might not have Najee Harris as running back 1.
No, I do. I just don't have him in the first round.
Okay.
That's just
I don't think he's a top 50 player, but
right.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at on Javonte Williams?
Third.
If
you
say third round, I'm driving to your house.
No. Third running back. Him and Etienne, and they're all in that.
I have Williams second, then I have Etienne, and then I have the other North Carolina guy, Carter, and then I have dude from Louisiana, Mitchell.
I like Gainwell up in there too.
Gainwell's very good too.
Yeah, but again, these are third round guy. Gainwell's more of a third round guy than for me. But in the second round, that's where the running back should go, in my opinion. But again, this is where teams take them because they're like
Koromoa territory with Pittsburgh.
It is, but is he redundant with Devin Bush though? And they have Vince Williams there too,
and Minka.
And Terrell Edmonds. They got a lot of those guys already.
Yeah.
Would Greg Newsome fit?
Probably. Their best corner is Joe Hayden, who
and then Justin Lane
has some gray in his beard.
Oh, trustworthy.
like Erik.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Their offense is a mess right now. I mean,
their O-line's a mess. But what's available?
Right. You take the best center here.
Landon Dickerson.
Yes. And he's a perfect fit, perfect player for that city.
I have seen Pittsburgh fans screaming for him, but I don't know. I mean, Packers fans want him too. I don't know.
Here's a wild.
So if we could deny Packers fans, that's always a good thing.
Yeah, all the time. What about the center from Wisconsin, Whitewater here?
Quinn Miners.
Yep.
I think he's their second round pick, honestly.
Well, I shouldn't have said that. I don't think he'll get to Pittsburgh in round 2.
I think you don't think he's going to get to 55?
No.
Okay.
He might because Creed Humphrey's going to go in there too, right?
Yeah.
He's my 2. And then you still have Josh Myers that you could lean on if you need to. There's a few centers in this class that can play. So,
but is any of them near Dickerson?
I don't think any. Look, I think Dickerson is a first rounder. It's the injury stuff. He was banged up quite a bit at FSU. He gets to Bama, And Bama has an NFL medical staff, right? Everything's NFL level at Bama, right? And now he's not injured as much, and he's okay for 2 years, and then he tears his ACL in the SEC championship, and that's his third in however many years. And so, there's a red flag on that. But from a talent perspective, I mean, he relocates guys like not just, hey, I'm going to push you this way. It's I'm going to pick you up and throw you. Like, he's sensational.
They just had their center. I am blanking on names.
Pouncey,
yes. Jeez. They just had to hire. There's such a huge need there, and they do need to keep. They have to keep Ben somewhat upright. I mean, I know that he's a sack machine, and a lot of them are his fault, but I don't know that outside of looking at secondary, or maybe a gadget player like Owusu Koromoa. And Erik, we talked about this last year with Isaiah Simmons and just the whole positionless thing. Yeah. I don't know what to do with him. I mean, I know that I feel like he could play over the slot, but I think he would get exploited a little with NFL slot receivers.
Yeah, I don't think this is the spot for him. Their running back core right now is Benny Snell and Kalen Ballage. That's their running back room.
Oof,
that's awful.
I think they have McFarland too.
McFarland?
Yeah.
Oh
not
yeah.
From McFarland's changing
Maryland
for us, but
if Kalen Ballage is on your roster, you need a running back.
Yeah, that's a fact.
It's just, are you taking one in the first round?
It's so. Which Alabama guy do you like? Do you like Dickerson or Harris?
I would take Dickerson. I wouldn't even blink.
All right, I'll go with Dickerson. That's cool. I'm good with that.
Good.
All right, Landon Dickerson. There we go. All right, moving on. Jacksonville from the LA Rams at 25. Riz, let's go to you. Who are you teeing up here?
So let's keep with the theme of taking the position that you traded away. They traded away Jalen Ramsey. Greg Newsom's still there at cornerback.
All right. Not a lot of discussion here.
Wow. They need help, period. Now, they could absolutely take a speed weapon here. A guy like Kadarius Toney makes a lot of sense too. Elijah Moore makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. We took Bateman off the board. He's not that. He's not that kind of guy, anyways. But
all right.
Yeah, I like Newsome here. Newsome's going one of the next two picks. Let's put it that way.
All right. Let me. I'm going to just, in the name of speed, I'm going to go with it with Greg Newsome there, and we're going to go straight to Cleveland. And Riz, since Cleveland rocks, I'm going to give this one to you to start out again.
They do. I think they're taking Christian Barmore. I'm not crazy about it, although I understand it. So I've done this on a lot of Browns-centric podcasts, and I'm doing another one tomorrow. Tune in on Cleveland.com. Their analytical philosophy will tell you that if you can get the number one player at a position at this spot, taking the number one defensive tackle is better than taking the number 6 cornerback or the number 5 wide receiver. That's the way they do things. And Barmore is easily the number one defensive tackle consensus. There's going to be some blowback on that. There's some people thinking like on the dude from Washington who I can't pronounce, on Ruzuwike.
Did a pretty good job right there.
Yeah, and I like Milton Williams a lot. I personally, so I did my Browns dream draft, and I had them going Greg Newsome here with Milton Williams later to fill the defensive tackle. They have to replace Sheldon Richardson. They just cut him. It doesn't look like they're going to use that money for anything this year to bring in anybody. So and Larry Ogunjobi's gone. So their 2 starting defensive tackles are gone from last year. They get Andrew Billings back. Their other starter right now is
expectations, reality, disappointment thing. Like, you're drafting a interior defensive tackle in the mid-20s. You shouldn't expect him to do a lot for you. Otherwise, your expectations are just too high.
The other things that they need are, they do need another outside corner, because I don't trust Greedy Williams, and I don't think they trust Greedy Williams to get healthy again. That's really the only other need that they have. They need another wide receiver. This is too early for them to take one when they've got Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins paid. They just can't.
Scott, to your point, I mean, think about it though. I can see expectations being too high in Cleveland because frankly they're not used to picking this low in the draft, right? This is a first-round draft pick, right? For them and for people there.
That's the perfect point, though, is they're used to, all right, we're drafting in the top. We're getting Denzel Ward, and he's going to play for us right away. Well, no, you're taking yes, you're getting the best defensive tackle in the draft, but you shouldn't expect that he's going to be super productive for you in year one. He's just not. But Jeff, this is the area where teams that are good teams always find gold with players like, okay, we're the Browns and we just took Elijah Moore because we didn't really need a receiver, but now we're loaded.
They could.
Okay. Yeah. I would understand the frustration that you ignored some needs and you took another player when you already have a bunch of those guys. But Elijah Moore can help you now.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
He can.
But
Barmore's the best slot receiver. Yeah. I'm gonna go Barmore here because I think that's who they're gonna take. But I'm certainly open to other options. Let's put it that way.
Any other options there, Erik?
No, I mean, look, Jeff knows his team better than anybody, so I'll side with him on this one.
All right, voted down, Scott. We'll mark that down and take a number, and we'll hit him back later. All right. All right, moving on. Number 27 to Baltimore. The Ravens picking oddly late. What do we got here, Scott? What are we looking at for the Ravens?
I don't know. Offensive line, just like everybody else.
They could use edge.
They need edge help. They lost Matt Judon.
And Ngakoue, right? So they drop both their edges now because they're the Ravens. They still have Pernell McPhee and Tyrus Bowser, but they need bodies, right? Like that's not enough.
Is Olay a player we would think about here?
I think they would think about him here.
Yeah.
I don't see Rousseau as being the type of guy that they like, and I'm not.
No, Tryon, maybe.
I don't know if Tryon is. I think he's just a tick below, right?
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be enticed. Look, always measurables are just insanity, right? Like at 6'5", 260, he's running in a 4.37. He's got like insane jumps. Even his 3-cone was under 7, right?
Ridiculous.
So it's just there's so many different things that he does. Now he is raw, and the big thing that worries me about him is that when he was a situational pass rusher, he generated 7 sacks over 2 years.
Yeah.
And when they made him a starter, he generated 0 sacks, and that tells me that when he's coming on the field as a situational guy and offensive linemen aren't prepared for him, he's able to use his athleticism to take advantage. But when you put him on the field as a starter and the offensive tackle gets used to him, he's not as productive and he doesn't have the secondary pass rush moves in order to beat that offensive tackle. So if you're going to play him in a pass rushing role, then this is like a sub package. Like if he's your third guy, which the Ravens can afford him to be, this is a fine spot for him to learn as they go. And he needs to develop more pass rushing skills, but his athleticism is tough to match. It'd be a good spot for him, good spot for the Ravens.
I mean, I think that makes sense. Would a player like Caleb Farley falling into their laps be somebody that they might think about?
I mean, that seems like what the Ravens think to do.
They've done those reclamation projects in the past. That's for sure. The injury risk guys, and a lot of times it works out for them.
And again, it's pick 27, so it's not like
They also need receiver help. And a guy like Kadarius Toney working with Lamar Jackson would scare the hell out of people in the AFC North. Or Elijah Moore. Or
to the receiver point, do they need a bigger boundary guy to unlock some things for Lamar?
Yes, because Marquise Brown has the smallest catch radius of any human that's ever played football.
Maybe Harris Marshall is an option.
They signed Sammy Watkins to try and play that outside role. They have Miles Boykin, who was
he's big, but not good.
Big and athletic. They have Duvernay, who is the slot guy, right?
Devin Duvernay. Oh yeah, I forgot about him. He feels I like that guy.
That's Texas. Why I think maybe more Marshall for what.
I really don't like Terrace Marshall. He's one of those guys that I have on the Lions. Absolutely, please don't draft this guy list.
Really?
Yeah.
He intrigues me because he was good enough at LSU to push Justin Jefferson in to play the slot.
I didn't like.
He had 10 plus touchdowns this year, and
I could tell in watching 2 drives. I picked up on it that fast if he's the intended receiver on a pass or not on a route.
He's passive.
If he is not the guy getting the ball, he doesn't play, period. And he doesn't block.
Well, he could play for Baylor? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Might as well. Good call.
It's Mims, right?
Do you want the speed and the separation?
He can go get the ball on the outside though.
He can.
Why about that?
I think that there's a little of Lamar Jackson who doesn't trust. I mean, you see him what he does with Edwards, the tight end, and he lets him go get it, but he doesn't do that to the receivers. He just won't.
No.
So
I think this is a deep enough receiver class that you can find a guy to contribute with that receiving core.
You can get a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown later.
The edge board is going to fall.
Somebody like that. Yeah.
Miami Brown.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he'd be good there too.
So we're talking about Owe?
Owe. I think that's my pick.
Sure.
All right, Jason Owe. Here we go.
All right.
No problem. All right, so we'll move on now to New Orleans. Erik, we're going to put you on the clock here. New Orleans with the 28th pick overall. What do you think they're going to do here?
So, I mean, obviously, they'd again be in the quarterback market. What did they lose? Did they lose anybody big this year? That's
Dan Campbell. Sorry.
I mean,
Sanders. Not that he was, but they do.
Yeah.
Too.
They could use it. They could use a receiver. They traded for Demario Davis at linebacker. They have a decent front. I don't think they lost really a whole lot on defense. So it's just where do you upgrade? I think receiver makes sense here. You got Michael Thomas. Who can you pair with Michael Thomas that you think is gonna do something? I think this makes sense for Tony here. He'd be pretty fun to pair with Michael Thomas and Kamara.
Who's playing quarter? Is it Winston?
Probably or Hill.
Yeah, or Hill, right?
We need somebody with a massive catch radius, if you know what I'm saying.
That's true. Here, well, let's look at those guys then. That's Marshall's is 32 and 3/4.
Marshall can go get it.
Yeah. De'Ami Brown's 32 and 3/4.
Yeah.
That's about it in this range.
I love that you know all these things, Erik. What about Nico Collins? It's a little early for him.
God, it is early for him, but I tell you what,
fits the bill.
To be able to run a sub 6.83 cone at 6'4" is stupid, like stupid. So I do think Nico has locked himself into day two. I think it is a little early for day one.
What do we think about linebacker in New Orleans?
Well, they traded for Demario Davis, right? But they could use a weak side guy. They drafted Zach Bond last year.
Yeah. Nick Bolton from Missouri. I'm kind of thinking about. I think
it's early for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little early for me.
He tested terrible too.
Yeah, yes.
He needs to. I think Tony. Tony makes sense.
He does.
All right.
Tony?
All right. Yeah, take
There's Tony it is.
Yeah, that'd be fun for them.
All right.
Tony.
All right, everyone's favorite cheese eaters, the Green Bay Packers at 29. Erik, why don't you lead us off again here?
Well, the obvious one is center. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I think this is probably too early. The next best interior guy I have is Creed Humphrey. It's probably early for him, in my opinion. So then I don't know where that's I was.
They can use some youth on their defensive line. They could use a tackle.
Yeah.
There's Onwuzurike maybe fits here. They're always complaining that they don't have enough secondary help, even though they spend first or second round picks on it every flipping year.
Right.
Where are we at? Let me look at the board on what we got on.
Where are they at with safeties? Because
could JOK go here?
Ooh. Yes, he could.
He could value too.
Yeah.
It would be really good value.
Yeah, because right now, what do they have at linebacker? Chris Barnes, Kamal Martin, Ty Summers, Owen Burks. These are not nobody you're pounding the table for. JOK, I think, could fit in.
He would.
And
he honestly he would blend well with Adrian Amos that they have at safety. Because that's a really smart guy who's used to reacting off of that quicker linebacker that's in front of him.
Richie Grant's still available too, and Richie Grant's a really good player, but
he's a playmaker.
Safety,
yeah.
JOK gives you more versatility and Swiss Army knife type stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I'm hearing JOK at 29 in Green Bay.
I think the league will go JOK here.
All right. We'll move on. Pick number 30, rounding this out here. Buffalo. Scott, what are you thinking? What's
Buffalo
this young wonder?
Quinn Miners.
Yeah.
A lot. So there you go. I mean, it's way early for a center and a center only, but
D3.
yeah, but I mean, guys, we've seen it at the Senior Bowl. Those dudes who show up there and play and look the way he did.
Yeah.
Those guys work. There's a reason that he squeezed his way into this kind of consideration. Do I think it's early? Yeah, but I mean, Buffalo's a pretty good team. They're pretty, that's a good team. They're kind of set up everywhere.
They're in a position where they could take a risk if they want to, and he would be a risk.
Yes. Yeah. It just, you always can use edge help or defensive line help. There's no tight end that you're going to take, but this is an interesting running back in this scenario. I know you have Devin Singletary, you have Zach Moss that you took last year, but if you're in a situation where Buffalo can grab a player like Travis Etienne and pair him with Zach Moss, that intrigues me. I'm not saying there's any value in doing that, but that's intriguing. I don't know what else they need.
They could use depth in their secondary, but I mean their starters are fine.
Caleb Farley is still available.
And that would be another risk. Would you be? You're in a position where you can take that if you're Buffalo. I think it's too early for him, but I mean I would certainly understand the allure there.
Yeah, Erik, what do you think?
Would they be interested in a guy like Asante Samuel?
So I just went Asante Samuel or younger Melifonwu, who's better than his older brother who couldn't play a lick.
Oh.
Sorry, Scott. I got that one right.
I loved him.
All right, I still have Quinn Miners pinned up on the board here. What do you guys think?
I think it's early for him. I know they like him. It's just I don't think he'll be there, and they don't think he'll be there in round 2 for them. But I don't know.
Yeah, he probably won't.
I don't think he'd fall past Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because you also have Green Bay that needs a center as well. So
they have Elgton Jenkins. That guy can play.
Oh, okay. Well, right. If they want to play it, so they'll just shuffle those guys around.
They need somebody inside.
Yes.
Yeah. To your point, they absolutely do.
There's been a lot of rumors around him going higher than what most people are thinking right now. I don't know. I don't have him as a first rounder, but I mean, I just read something the other day. I think at The Athletic that were saying that Leatherwood was getting a lot more hype or he's getting a lot more hype in NFL circles than he is in draft community.
And I can see NFL teams liking him more than because he's been sort of penned as a guard.
Mm-hmm.
And are we there with him just yet? I don't know. I think he has enough versatility and enough safety and enough floor that you draft him and just kind of let it work out. And they need offensive line help. Every team does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as crazy as it is.
We got Riz making popcorn again.
Is there a defensive line, a player that's worthy at this point?
I don't know.
I mean, the Washington kid is. I mean, Onwuzurike, I think he is, but does he fit?
I don't think they need it.
Yeah,
they have Vernon Butler and Ed Oliver, so Let me just look at my overall board. Fairley, Marshall.
I mean, if they wanted to get cute, Elijah was real intriguing.
Yeah, but don't they have Cole Beasley?
They do.
Like, right? Who was a AP receiver last year because of Peter King. An All-Pro last year because of him, because he voted slot receiver. Geez, I don't have a gut here. I wish I did. You know what? I wouldn't. We didn't give Pittsburgh a running back, right?
We did not. That's why I mentioned that at the end thing. I think
I could see Buffalo going running back here.
Yeah. So which one? They have Zach Moss. They have Devin Singletary. I'm not sure Singletary's much in the equation at this point, but Moss was last year in the draft. Who's a complementary weapon with Moss?
I'd give him Harris. I think Harris is the best running back on the board. You need a guy who can who can play in cold weather as well in Buffalo, and so I think Harris can do that.
All right.
He'll hold up in pass pro too.
Riz's internet went down. He's out, he said, for the last 2 picks, unfortunately. So we should bounce through these pretty quickly.
All right.
Super Bowl losers, Kansas City Chiefs. Erik, why don't you start us out? Obviously, they're going to go quarterback first round, right?
So they need tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just cut both their tackles.
Yep.
And so this is a spot where I could see Leatherwood going.
Yeah.
I think they could say him or the Notre Dame kid. Either of those guys could work. I'd give him Leatherwood.
Yeah, Leatherwood has a reputation just for being a real beast, like a mean dude. Scott, have you heard that?
Leatherwood?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
he's mean to everybody.
As a tackle at Alabama, I don't know why, and he can move. It's I don't think there's any limitations, relatively speaking, with him. So I don't know what the desire to kick him inside automatically is. I think that it's one of those things where let him play outside, and if he fails, I think there's some security with with him playing guard. But I think he's a tackle to start.
Yep.
It's just they need tackles. They really do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He's the best available option right now, though.
Yep. All right. Number 32, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, hometown heroes with the with the Bolts here. What do we got going on, Scott? I'm going to let you lead the charge on this. Who do you have them picking with the last overall pick? Mr. Irrelevant of the first round.
So do we think they need more weapons?
Elijah Moore.
Yes.
You've been begging for him, right? This is the spot.
Yep.
He takes Antonio Brown's spot.
So to me, it's Elijah Moore, or they're taking a player like Travis Etienne and looking to strike it. I don't know that Fournette's. I know that he resigned there.
Ronald Jones is okay.
Yeah, he's okay, but I mean, Brady loves throwing the ball to those running backs, and Etienne, he'd be electric in that offense. He really would. But so would Elijah Moore. Yep.
All right.
Elijah's my higher rated guy. Give him Elijah.
There you go.
Wrap up that first round.
All right. Yep. All right. With that, we're going to put Elijah Moore, number 32 for Tampa Bay. I'm going to really quick go through the list here. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence. New York Jets, Zach Wilson. 49ers got Justin Fields. Atlanta picked up Kyle Pitts. Cincinnati, Jamar Chase. Jaylen Waddle went to Miami. The Detroit Lions got Penei Sewell. Why am I know why my mouth's not working, but it's been a long show. We'll just keep going. Patrick Surtain went to Carolina. Mac Jones to Denver. J.C. Horn to Dallas. Micah Parsons to the New York Giants. Devonta Smith to Philadelphia. Rashawn Slater to the Chargers. Christian Darrisaw to Minnesota. Trey Lance went to New England. 15. And you're right. What you said, Erik, that's going to just ring true. How did we let this happen? How did he get to New England? That's the pick of the round. That's just crazy. Zaven Collins to Arizona. Kwity Paye. Somebody talk for me. Kwity Paye to Las Vegas. Azeez Ojulari to Miami. Elijah Vera Tucker to Washington. Rashad Bateman to Chicago. Jalen Phillips to Indianapolis. Tevin Jenkins to Tennessee. Trayvon Moehrig to the New York Jets. Landon Dickerson to Pittsburgh. Greg Newsome to Jacksonville. Christian Barmore to
Cleveland,
thank you. Jason Owe to Baltimore. Kadarius Toney to New Orleans. Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, since no one wants to say it, to Green Bay. Let me just go stupid. Najee Harris. When things are going bad, you got to go deep, right? Buffalo got Najee Harris. Alex Leatherwood to Kansas City. And Tampa Bay Buccaneers got Elijah Moore. Guys, I really appreciate you coming on. This is always a fan favorite, a great show. It was a long one, but God, this was a lot of good stuff. Yeah, me too. It doesn't matter. It's going to be like one of us standing there talking, and it'll still go 4 hours.
All good.
All right, Scott, thank you so much for coming on again. Really appreciate it. We got to do this more than once a year. And Erik, we got to do this more than twice a year. All right, remember, folks, don't forget about us on Patreon, patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. Hit in there, you get access to our Slack chat, the most intelligent Lions chat on the internet. Follow us on Twitter at DET Lions Podcast, DET Lions Podcast, and go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Subscribe to the podcast, and that way we can show up in your ears automatically. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, we're going to see you next time on the Detroit Lions Podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no problems. Because we're Detroit Lions and Reddit Connection.